The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Work without... I sat in an advertising agency thinking, I don't want to be doing all this rubbish. I want the tackle box out making rigs or making bait or doing something. Or I couldn't focus on what I was doing. And if my girlfriend, who became my wife, wanted to go out on a Saturday night to a club which was normal for young people, I was thinking, oh no, why do I have to have that getting in the way? You know, I wonder if I could make some excuse for not going. And yeah, I wanted her to be with me, you know, and because it's normal part of your life for a normal person. Yet it's unbelievably selfish carp fishing, isn't it? You know, you want the best of both worlds, really. But you'd need several lifetimes to do that, wouldn't you? You'd need a normal life where you have a family and wife and all the rest of it and kids, and do all the holiday thing and go everywhere. And then you need a life as a carp angler to do all you know, all the ambitions you've got for it and the different places you want to go.
That's funny with you though, because obviously I didn't know you until last week, and I know about the bike racing, about the boxing, like all the other stuff away from carp fishing, and it's like that's someone that's actually lived their life a little bit and done other things. But you said despite all of that stuff, you were still completely focused on carp fishing.
I think it's very rare for a person to be running at 100% doing the same thing for the length of time I've done. Because it's 50 years now. This will be my 50th year carp fishing. And I think you need to, in order to really love something, you need to compare it with other things and to taste some other flavours, you know what I mean? And then carp fishing never meandered too far from my life. But I mean, I put it simply, I can't imagine going carp fishing against my wishes. I think there's some of the guys in this current scene, without, you know, I'm not sounding horrible or anything, but I think to keep up appearances on Instagram or Facebook and keep the tally up and the likes and all the stuff, I think they're probably going at times when they don't really want to go. And I might be wrong, but I think some must. I think they must be doing it and going, am I really enjoying this? Am I at the place where I want to fish? Or am I doing this for the pure love of the thing, like you do when you first take it up? You know, there's that special honeymoon period, isn't there, where you can't think about anything else, and you're just willing your days away to that trip, the next trip. And then when you've been doing it a long time, that the essence has sort of faded, and the only way to get that fix and that hit is to do probably less fishing, but have that carrot dangled so that you're dying, you're wishing the time away for that feeling again that you used to have. And in some instances, some of the waters in England just don't do it for me. So the only way I can get that is to go on the big lakes where you don't know what's coming next, maybe, you know. So there's that sense of adventure and that unknown thing, and I think you have to have that. And I crave that, and that's the only thing that keeps me tied to it, if you like. Because if they took that away and I was just fishing some of these day ticket waters that are hammered, and you've done it a million times in the past, and that, it's not got that magic.
No, I know you can have too much. You could have a great thing, can't you? You enjoy fishing a lake, but you can have too much of one thing, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like this water I'm fishing at the moment. I got in a new syndicate, which is novel for me because it's really close to my house, and it's about 25 minutes away, which is fabulous because I've always had to travel really, you know, since certainly the mid 80s, and so it's a novelty. And the problem is putting the brakes on, because I've gone mad on the place and I love it, and I want to catch all the big ones instantly. And I'm thinking, hang on, slow down, because I want this to be a long experience, and I don't particularly like going recapturing fish. It's that initial, I want that one and that one, you know, and that one, and it's there again. And I've not had that for a long, long time, since the early days when I used to fish Reedsmere and Cape Thorne Hall, and when I first went on just purely because it was different. Wellington Country Park, for example, that was so. Well, I suppose it was satisfying the need for plenty of big fish quickly, and then once you got in that vein of, they're not that difficult to catch and there's plenty of them. Might change now, I suppose, because they've lost some fish, but that was great initially, but it got a little bit too predictable, so that lost its shine.
Sometimes the actual journey is better than the result itself, isn't it? It's the discovery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, Frank, I'm just going to say we're live.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We're live.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Frank
Thanks,
Warwick.
nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good show.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting.
Yes.
Judging by some of the laughs we've had when we were chatting previous to
And
this,
some of our experiences in the last week as well.
Yeah, there's some mad stuff, isn't there?
There is. So we're kind of coming out of lockdown at the moment.
Yeah.
But you've had the coronavirus.
Yeah, I did. I think I must have been one of the first people in the UK to get it. Just my luck, know. And I've always been quite healthy and not seemingly suffered too much until just last couple of years. I've had a few things go wrong, but I was at Carp Italy, and I'm with a bait company called Vital Baits, and they're based in Spain. And it's a Danish friend of mine, Nicky Heading, that owns the company, and he asked me to go to Carp Italy. And I've not been to Carp Italy for maybe 10 years. When I was with, I suppose it's when I had my own bait company I went last. And then before that I was with Dynamite Baits. And so I used to go every year. So I've got loads of friends in Italy, And I knew the coronavirus was out there, but it was only, maybe 150, 200 cases in Italy. Or maybe it was deaths, actually. It was deaths, yeah. There wasn't a massive outbreak, but obviously it was there. So I flew to Bergamo, which was the epicenter of it all in Europe, and went to Parma to the show. We stayed in a hotel, and then there was 20,000 Italian people over the 3 days, and they all wanted to shake hands. And I had the hand sanitizer and was washing my hands and cleaning up, and like a madman, really, because I thought, they're bound to have it, some of these people, And of course, we didn't realise how serious it was going to get as well. How dangerous it really was. And then after the show, I had to fly home on the Monday morning, so I stayed in a hotel in next to Milan airport, Malpensa. So I stayed in this hotel, and there was about 200 Chinese people in the hotel, so I thought, I'm doomed. So I got home 3 days later. 3 days later, I start sweating and shaking. It was like flu times 10. Lost my sense of taste and smell. Was hallucinating. I was sleeping for like 15 hours a day, not even with it, having the wildest, weirdest dreams. I was going freezing cold and hot, and all my back was aching, my stomach and my ribs. Then my wife's a carer, so I had to self-isolate. I rung up, is it 111? Mm. And they said, we haven't got a facility for it. We don't know what to do with you. You just have to self-isolate till we can get a unit set up. And if you have breathing trouble, ring us back and we'll get an ambulance. So it was very early indeed, certainly in Manchester. And so I started getting chest pains, and then I found I couldn't breathe, particularly at night, for about 3 days. And I've never had asthma, but I guess that's how it would feel. And I was really quite ill with that. I was on
distinctive symptoms as well, then, aren't they?
Yeah, I definitely had it. I've not had a proper test because I'm absolutely certain I did have it.
What about the other people you were with? Did anyone else get it?
Yes, they did.
Did they?
There was none of my family got it, apart from maybe Jamie, my youngest son. He thinks he might have caught it, but he had a weird hacking cough. But I think the immune system on youngsters is much better than older people.
Yeah.
Old fart like me was bound to cop for it. So, but that I could live with. I recovered after about 3 weeks, but the horrible bit was the hidden side effects that this professor that's been treating me, he thinks one of the sinister after effects when you think you're well, was that you can get blood clots. Your blood thickens and your arteries thicken, and also you're prone to blood clots through this stuff, and it can flare up months after the initial infection. And I had a stroke caused by a blood clot that escaped from my lungs possibly and went to my brain and caused a blockage in one of the small blood vessels in the thalamus part of my brain, and it killed the last 3 cells, which completely poleaxed me. So I'm down to 0 now.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was. It didn't paralyse my motor movement, but it paralysed the feeling in my skin and sense of touch. I'm left-handed, and it was my left arm, my left foot, my left knee, my chest. It was like having half my body having a general anaesthetic.
Was it?
It's the most terrifying thing.
But that could have caused an aneurysm or anything, couldn't it? With a clot there.
Oh yeah. I could easily be dead.
Yeah.
Perhaps 1 in 6 people die from things like that. So I felt like I'd sort of missed a speeding bullet, And the interesting thing was that you could draw a line literally down my body. Even my left bollock was numb. Can you believe that? And it sounds funny, but it was like someone had drawn a line with a laser down there. All my face was. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to end up with a, droopy face like that. Would have been it. I think I'd have got the suicide kit out and see you later.
Yeah, you didn't need to do that.
No, but I did have that planned if it got worse.
Right.
Because I went round a lot of supermarkets and got myself a good few 100 tablets and some seriously decent whiskey. So I thought, yeah, if it gets bad, and it really is bad, 200 tabs and a bottle of whiskey, nice sleep.
We're glad you didn't need to do that, Frank.
Yeah.
But the recovery, then you've been making quite a good recovery. Apparently.
Oh yeah. But I wasn't treated very well actually. In the hospital when I was waiting I knew I was having a stroke. It was probably that or a heart attack. All my hand went numb, my foot, my leg, and felt really queasy and awful. And they says, "Oh, go and sit in the waiting room." So I was there while you'd see the triage for 2 hours, and you can feel the paralysis going through your body. Can you imagine how scary that is? I says, "Look, I might be dead soon." "Oh no, we've got a queue here." So I see the doctor, and he said they did all the tests, blood tests, X-ray of my heart, ECG. "Oh yeah, you've had a stroke, but Professor O'Neill's not in till tomorrow or maybe the day after, so go home."
It's not really what you want to hear, is it?
So they sent me home, and I'm thinking, what now? And they said, he'll ring you when you need to come in. So the following day I was much worse, and I thought, I'm going to die, or I'm going to be totally paralysed. So I got my son to take me back to the hospital, and this professor rang me. He says, "Frank Warwick." I says, "Yeah." He says, "Where are you now?" I said, "I'm coming back to the hospital." He went, "Who the hell do you think you are making your own appointments?" I says, "I'm not coming to see you. I can't get hold of you. I'm going to the A&E again to try and get something to perhaps save my life." "Oh, you better come and see me then. I'll try and squeeze you in." So I thought, good job his appointment wasn't the following day.
God, blimey.
So
how common is it then to have a stroke or a clot after the virus, do you think?
Oh, they find it's been very common.
So did you say that other people in the hospital had similar symptoms?
No, but they found all over the UK and across Europe and the world, there's been loads of incidences of previously very healthy people that have got this COVID that have been having strokes.
Oh, that's killed some people then, hasn't it?
Yeah, loads. Yeah. So it's quite a nasty, unexpected side effect. So unfortunately, but I'm still here and I'm getting a lot of feeling back. My arms, it's almost like you got pins and needles all down your arm.
You said with your shoes as well. You've taken your shoes off.
I've had to take my shoes off so I can feel some texture on the carpet under my feet because my brain's got to relearn all the feeling, the sensations, which is really strange because the old part of my brain that deciphered all the messages from your nerves and your muscles and everything is dead. So the surrounding bit has to relearn the job. It's almost like a baby learning to talk. So they say you should shut your eyes and just keep touching like different substances. So, because when you first get this paralysis, when your brain's trying to relearn the job, it switches on a triple switch. It's dead weird. One day you've got no feeling, almost, and then another day, you know, when you're having your blood pressure taken, and they put that bag on your arm and it pumps up really tight. The whole of my arm, my chest, and my leg felt like I'd got one of them on that was crushing it all. And then another day, it felt like someone was running a tap of cold water down my arm and leg. And then another day, it'd be pins and needles. And then another day, it might be like you've been in a house fire and you've been badly burnt. And that's your brain trying to work out if it should be a pain day or a pressure day. Or, it's just
funny how the brain works.
It's most
well
despicable, horrible thing.
But it's it's getting better.
Oh,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, at first I was scared of going fishing by myself. That's not like me, because I was thinking, what happens if you have another?
Yeah.
And it's a big one, and you're by yourself, and you're thinking, I can't move, or I'm paralysed or something.
Talking about fishing, though, you've been fishing,
yeah,
and sending us some nice pictures of some fish you've caught recently.
Yeah, well, as I say, I got in that syndicate, which a friend of mine started many years ago, and I didn't realise the significance of how well and how amazing the fish were in there. And then he came to Italy with me and was telling me a bit about it. To Parco della Brenta, and he says, "Oh, you must come over and take you as a guest to my syndicate." And I went. I thought, "Ooh, wow!" And it's an absolute fabulous little place. It's a triple SSI, and it's a kettle that was left by the Ice Age. So that was 12,000 years ago that the ice receded, because over Cheshire it was half a kilometre thick. So and it went all the way down to the Southern Alps. You can imagine that, and. So that has a particular significance because it dates back to after the Ice Age, like a lot of the Shropshire Meres do as well.
I read in your book, actually, Birchgrove, you reckon the same thing?
Yeah, and the mangrove, Fenny Mere, most of the big Shropshire Meres date back just after the Ice Age. There were kettles, same thing. And in Cheshire, some of the meres there were, Reed's Mere originated like that, although part of it was hand dug and raised up by people who run the estate, So yeah, I went down there, and it's been very kind to me. I've had 11 bites in 4 trips, so it's been good.
You got some pictures, Tope?
Yeah, there you go.
Look at that.
Yeah, I thought that was a 40-pounder when I landed it.
I mean, it looks like a 50-pounder, Frank. That.
Yeah, it was just a massive frame on it. It was 36.12, I think it was.
That's the biggest looking 36-pound common I've seen.
For me too. And I mean, I lay it on the mat and I thought, this has got to be 42 to 45 pound this. And I thought it was the big fish that's in there.
You said there's a bigger common in there.
There's 2.
Yeah.
There's 2, yeah.
Yeah.
And which is, I mean, look at the greenery of the place.
I know, it's beautiful.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And that fish looks old as well.
No, I don't think it's that old. I think it's, I think Andy stocked it about 18, 17 years ago, something like that. Or maybe it was 15 years, and there was C4s when he put them in. That was it, yeah. So they're 20 years old, them fish. So that's not old, really.
No, not really. I like Shropshire Meres and all that, but I've never fished any lake like that. It's a different challenge.
Well, why don't you join me as a guest on my Shropshire syndicate that I'm in?
That would be great.
I can take guests, yeah. And it's beautiful. There's hardly any members. There's only I think there's 12 members, and the actual place where we go, I can't name it because I don't think it's fair to the guys in there. But it's in the the mangrove area and Birch Grove, that sort of Bass Church area, and it was off the radar, this place. And my friend Ellis Brazier runs the syndicate. He has done for many years, and it was kept a secret because there was a small club at it, and there was just a handful of carp hangers that used to fish it. And it's got some history to it because there was the Roman consul to Shrewsbury. He had his private villa there. And when I've been looking around, because I'm into treasure hunting, not that I've been treasure hunting there, let me point that one out. I've not had the metal detector out or anything, honestly, because it's a scheduled archaeological site. They've had a dig on there, and they found all the remnants of his villa, and there was also, I'm sure, a garrison there to protect him. because you can see the fortress, and it's right near a river, south-facing, which is where they always did it. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's got some history to it. And
it's difficult. I mean, those lakes in Shropshire as well, because they tend to be small syndicates as well. I mean, it's got to be quite difficult to fish a lot of those lakes around there because of the.
You just don't get to hear about them, to be honest. It's like there's obviously loads of small places that you know, it's like a closed shop. You don't get an invitation. I mean, Fenimore was like Dead Man's Shoes and the Mangrove in the early days. You know, when Dave Preston was on there and. Tim was one of the early ones, and John Lilly and Brian Garner. And because I remember the first time I went on Birch Grove was probably 83, and I went with a bloke called Paul Miller. We'd been to Llandintrod Wells to a carp society do, and it was snowing. And it wasn't him. It was a bloke called there was two initial trips, a bloke called Paul Archer and then Paul Miller. And I went down, and John Lilly was on there, and Brian Garner. You know him. Brian Garner always had them big dark glasses on, like Roy Orbison. And they said, old Lilly says, "Oh, what are you doing out here, Warwick?" He went, "Oh, no." He said, "Private fishing here, mate." I said, "Get out of here." I said, "I've just got a ticket off Gwilt, the farmer." He says, "Oh, he's given you a ticket, has he?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "You're not pulling wool over my eyes." So it was winter time, so I was... decided to give it a crack. I only had 24 hours to fish. And I'll never forget it, because it was freezing cold, and I had one of them blue Calagas burners, you know, and crap ones.
Yeah, yeah.
In the winter, I mean, you think the butane ones are bad now, but then they were just abysmal. It took about 3 days to do a brew. I remember shaking it. It still had quite a lot in it. And I had the old Kevin Keegan perm at the time with the German porn moustache, as everybody nicknamed it. Not me, I must add. And I shook it. I thought, do you know what? I was that cold. I thought, I'll get my new cylinder out and I'll just light this one while I'm at it. And it erupted in a ball of flame. And it burnt my eyebrows off my moustache. My perm set on fire at the front. I had to run and do a flying dive into the lake. You don't even want to know. You don't even want to know what I looked like once that had done. So I caught this fish, and I didn't want a photograph taken with it, because you should have seen it. Yeah, it wasn't good.
And sad to see the perm up in flames as well.
Yeah. Well, it never looks great, does it? Because it looked like I'd shaved the front and the back was sort of out here. You know? Yeah. Looked like Michael Jackson on a bad day, you know, when he'd
on a Pepsi commercial.
Yeah. It wasn't good.
Yeah,
and but
those people, John Lilly, I met him in 1991, just after those Birch Grove videos, and we were fishing on Horseshoe. Yeah. And my friend came down and said, "Oh, there's a well-known angler fishing up there," and it was John Lilly. Yeah. He was. I mean, he's a character, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
But he was really, really good with us, and he was like showing us everything.
Oh yeah,
he had fishing rods everywhere. He had them in the reeds, all over the place.
Lil's always been a stroke puller. He's, I think he wrote the rules on all that.
Yeah.
But he's a nutter. I remember we were fishing a place called the Berth, and another Shropshire mere, and there was some low power cables overhead. And it was that fine misty drizzle that soaks you without actually feeling like rain. So Lily's got these Rod Hutchinson Spiroflexes, I think they were, and they had a little metal ring around near the spigot. He says, "Oh, have you seen this, boys?" And he lifts up the rod, and it's nearly touching this thing. It's probably got 10,000 volts going through it, or maybe 100. And I swear, there was a blue spark arcing over the carbon and over the metal. And we're like, whoa, we're waiting for him to sort of burst into flames, you know. He's like, you see them Indians that are committing suicide on the trains where they do it, and all of a sudden there's a big bang and sparks. I thought, Lil's going to spark up in a minute. I think his boom 80s saved him.
Did they?
Yeah, I think they insulated him, yeah.
Well, they had a good soul on those.
Yeah, good job he wasn't in his sandals. It'd have been history. I tell you, definitely, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But I've met some characters along the journey, though, you know.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure. Frank, before we go any further, we need to... have you got a nice little gift for us?
Yes. I've seen what some of the boys have brought, and I thought...
Books are quite a common theme, aren't they?
Yeah, this was...
Carp Fever.
Yeah, Kevin Maddox's 1980, the first edition, this one. you can see how battered it is. It was like a Bible to me. You
don't really want to open the pages, do you? It's just like the whole
well,
thing's
there's nothing
just
sinister about it like that. It was just I used to take it fishing with me in all kinds of weather.
Thank you very much.
It's a special significance, that, and the other interesting thing is John Baker, who's a very good friend of mine. He wrote the bait section in that book, and it used to have, I think it was Bait 78, and we've been friends since I met him on Duncan Kay's old Mid-North Ants in 1983, and we've been friends ever since. Like a lot of the guys on there, John O'Driscoll, Len Gurd I met there.
John Baker, I mean, great bait mind, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. He's very solid, sort of really good angler as well, John. And Dennis McFetrick the same.
Yes,
great anglers, but characters as well.
Very methodical book.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, it was a case of... you had Pete Regan on here recently. I really enjoyed that, by the way. It was a great podcast, that one. And I remember I was skint when I was a kid, and the choice was to get Rod Hutchinson's, not the Carp Strikes Back, the other one, the Carp, with a green cover, or Kevin Maddox's Carp Fever. And I'd always been a big fan of Rod Hutchinson. And his sense of humour and his slightly unorthodox approach and his way of thinking always struck a chord with me. And the fact that he lived in Louth as well, where I'd race motorcycles at Cadwell, and it was just everything about him, and I thought, I want his book. Even though I knew this was the technical book, I wanted Rod's because it was Rod. And I used to buy a magazine, for example. There might be one carp article in there, in Coarse Fisherman or The Angler or whatever, the early magazines. But if Rod had an article in there, I'd buy the whole magazine and just get into the car, or, my old fella's car, because he used to take us to the newsagents to buy the mags and that. And first thing I'd do is turn to the article and read every bit of it, And
it's like being a Beatles fan or a Stones fan.
Yeah, it was. You had those,
it was. You were on one side or the other, weren't you?
Yeah, you were. And it was a bit like, there was another analogy, wasn't there? Like, you either liked, what was his name now? I forget. There was two bands, weren't there, in the sort of 90s that you...
Blur and Oasis.
Yeah, Blur and Oasis. I mean, a bit of a weird... It's an obvious choice, that one, isn't it? I mean, it's like...
well, for you, it would be obvious.
Yeah, you wouldn't be a...
No,
Blur.
Actually, I'd be in between, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Oasis, actually, yeah.
Yeah. It has to be, really.
But yeah, you had... Hutchinson was just such a character, and it made carp fishing not quite so serious as well. You didn't necessarily have to be quite as serious as...
No, well, I met Rod in 1983, I think it was. I went in my car, and I'd always started reading about Rob Malin and all the roti, the toad
Famous
rotor.
Five.
Yeah. And in them days, I just thought, right, I'm going to fish it, because there was a day ticket. So I got my old Ford Escort. No, it was a Cortina, actually, was it? Yeah, it was like a Cosworth, but it didn't have a big engine in it. And I went down, and I got there late. And it just shot the shop.
You went to Savvy?
Oh, yeah, I went to Savvy, and I went to the newsagent to get a day ticket, because I knew I was going to be late, stuck in traffic after work on a Friday. And I got there just as he was closing the door, this Indian guy called Peveril's newsagents. And I thought, I want a ticket for Savvy. No, shut the door. I thought, shit. So I thought, right, I'll go on the Horse and Barge. So I found the Horse and Barge. Never been in there before. And I thought, I'm bound to see all the loony rotor in here or something, which happened. And I went in there early doors, and I had 12 pints of Webster's bitter. I'll never forget it. And there was a bit of a story to it. There was the barmaid in there. She felt sorry for me, because she says I was worse for wear. And she says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to have to sleep in the car park. She says, you can't do that. You can stay at my house if you want. And I must have had a whiskey at that point in shock, and then I was quickly informed that I couldn't stay because you know you go on that tipping point and go over the top. So I thought, oh well, that's that. So I got one of them old mummy sleeping bags out in the car park and my bed chair. I had one of them old Casio watches, and I set the alarm for, I think it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was absolutely, tits up really. I'd had a lot to drink, and so I hid my car keys so the police couldn't accuse me of drunken driving. Because that was always a thing. If they're in your possession, when you've had a skinful, you could be done. So I hid them under the wheel arch of the car. Got my head down in this old mummy sleeping bag. Bear in mind, I got the old Kevin Keegan perm still. And there must have been a hole in the sleeping bag and feathers were getting out. I slept right through the alarm. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm roasted. So I sat bolt upright in the middle of the car park in the sleeping bag. And I heard glasses chinking and people talking. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's all these sort of knobs sat there having dinner with the drinks out and everything. And I just come flying out of the sleeping bag like Lurch, sit upright with all feathers in my hair.
You would have made a very good loony then, Frank, wouldn't you? Yeah, blend straight in.
Yeah,
there.
I think that's why they like me so much. I sort of fitted immediately into that.
Did you do many days on there?
No, not really. It was more just to sample it. I wanted to, but my car was extremely dodgy. It was forever breaking down, and it was a bit of a slap. And I thought, do you know what? I want to go, but the car was so unreliable. So I probably did half a dozen trips, but I still got to know all the boys, and we had some laughs. And I joined Airfield as well and fished that a couple of times. And but I was always a bit random. I was never, I'm going to do a campaign on somewhere. I kind of never seen the job through. I'd join it and then experience that little special moment in time, and then the curiosity get the better of me. I want to do something else. I've always had that. Never been a stay on one place too long sort of
nomadic.
Yeah. It's a wanderlust to go to different places.
Still like that now.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of places I want to go. It's just how do I get there? Logistics, And I was speaking to Jakob Wagner recently, and he said there's this place in South America with big carp, Bolivia, and I know this place in Mexico because Jeff, who has what's it called now? He's got some lakes in France in the Champagne region. Since I've had this stroke, I'm having trouble recalling names, and it's kind of weird.
It'll come back.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a lake in Mexico, I think. But there's some lakes over there with really big carp in, apparently.
How big?
Well, certainly more than 60 pounds.
Right.
And to me that's big carp. And it would be.
Are they being fished, those lakes?
Not much, no.
Right.
No. I don't. I mean, I suppose when you like we were saying before, you see these cartels out there and all that with these murders and everything. You think, is it safe to go? But that makes it more exciting, doesn't it? Really.
There are new frontiers, then, aren't there, in carp fishing?
Yeah, I think Turkey's one.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, there's obviously people who fished a lot in Turkey, but I think there's. I remember years ago, my mum and dad used to go every year to Turkey, and they were on a plane, just by pure fluke, and they got talking to this guy that was in the third seat, and he said, where are you going? So they said where they were going, and he said, if some of my mates knew where I'm going, he said they'd go apeshit. He said, I'm doing this thing called carp fishing, and he just had to be sat next to my mum and dad. He said, I've had 60 pounders, and he got his. They said, my dad acted daft. He says, really? He says, let's have a look. He gets all his photos out of his wallet and showing them these big fish. He said, there's monsters there. And he said, they're quite near the place where my mum and dad were going. And he said, our Frank will be interested in that. He says, what, your son's a fisherman? He says, yeah, it's Frank Warwick. He went, oh no. He said, that's it now. He said, it's all ruined. So my dad says, no, don't be daft. He won't tell anyone about this. But how
long ago was this, Frank?
That was in the late 80s.
Oh, so this is really, I mean, a long time ago, when France was just starting to. So,
and guess whose parents were there in the same hotel? We talked about it, Bernard Loftus.
Oh, right.
Yeah, his parents were there, Brian. And they spoke about what they'd seen. And my mum and dad went on a boat trip on a massive lake that was quite shallow, but loads of pads on it. I mean, hundreds of acres of pads. And my dad says you should have seen the size of some of the fish that were crashing out on there and that. Mm. And when I was fishing in Serbia, doing some of the competitions with Vlad and some of the others, the Serbs, I bumped into some Turkish guys, and they showed me some awesome shots, some really mega big mirrors and everything, So I think this.
Yeah, we just haven't quite got there yet. Then.
No, because you think about it, you think, well, where do I start? And unless somebody from that country stumbles across you or you bump into each other and they offer to show you the ropes, it's not easy to find where to get the permits, not speaking the language. It is.
Does that appeal to you? Because, I mean, do you prefer, do you like to pioneer waters or tend to know what you're letting yourself in for before?
A bit of both, really. I think, I'd love to have been on Reduta first. I could have done that. I was down for the first ever trip with John Baker and I think Kevin Maddox went, and I think
was this prior to the World Championships that you done there?
Yeah. This was about 88.
Oh right.
Yeah, and I lost my job just before they were going and couldn't afford it, and so they went, and I think it was just after Boulder I caught the world record mirror because they seen that and said, right, we're going. And of course, I wanted to go. That's when a lot of the very big fish came out.
It took a few years before Reduta really got on the map as well, really, didn't it?
Yeah, I suppose the best time for Reduta was something like when did I go? When I first went in 2002. So yeah, it was going way before.
Was
then.
It? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll come back to Reduta.
Yeah.
Have you got another gift for us?
Yeah, there's that.
It's down there on the floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This. Yeah, we know all about this.
Yeah, we'll clear this one up, Frank, and then we'll move on to.
Yeah, I should explain, guys. Simon came up to see me. Was in the area and.
In the area.
Where I live, up in Cheshire, and
I've been looking forward to this one.
And basically. We'd never met before, had we?
No.
We sort of hit it off instantly. And for some bizarre reason, the way my mind works and the way that the conversation went, I decided to show Simon how to do a bowcast.
Put the video up, Tobe, so the viewers can watch this as well.
Yeah, I said, have you ever had a situation where there's overhanging snags and there's a big canopy of trees around you and you can't cast? And you want to get it really tight and a long way under the snags? He said, yeah, I've had that many a time. And I says, well, I'll show you this cast that I've been doing for many, many years where you can literally sit in your bivvy on your chair and I can fire it out like a bow and arrow, a solid bag or a rig with a piece of plastic on, bit of plastic corn, and generally I use small leads, sort of like up to about 2 ounces.
Yeah,
you don't want to get too giddy with this because it gets a bit messy if you get, doesn't it?
We've
Simon?
got it on the screen here, actually, Frank.
Yeah, so I got showing Simon. Oh, this is when I was making a film with Martin Bow, a good old mate. I demoed it with Martin, and he said it was about 10 yards. This cast, which is crazy. It was much further.
It's really effective. So you've used the rod like an elastic band, haven't you?
You bend the rod like a banana.
Yeah.
Which is where it went wrong, wasn't it? So you curve the rod round to the side at right angles, and wherever your line's pointing, you reach up and grab it and load the rod, and then wherever your line's pointing, preferably braid. The only thing you've got to learn is levitation, whether to do it higher for a longer cast or lower for a quick short cast under the trees. So I practice with a golf ball with do you know the pitcher hooks? I screw one of them in it, and then I tie the braid to that, and then I put a bait bucket in the garden, and I fire it so I can get it in the bait bucket at 20, 30 yards, whatever I choose. And it's amazing how accurate you get. And then once you've learnt with the golf ball, you switch over and do a lead and a rig. And you have to be obviously very careful how you hold the rig, but you could easily do.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah, but you could do it with the Chod.
Yeah,
with a
because you've got the lead below as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
But if the lead's below the hook, it's a little bit safer.
Yeah, it's safer. So if when you're learning, do a Chod.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake, we don't want anyone
We're going to get a few comments. A few hospitalised carp anglers.
So did you say we've missed the film, haven't we?
So we played the film.
Yeah.
So
you get the gist of it.
It works well, Frank. I mean, you've obviously got the hang of it.
Yeah, because you were amazed that the distance was getting
it was great.
as well, weren't you?
Oh, and the trajectory and everything.
Yeah,
it's good. So
you picked it up fairly quick, and then I says I had the bigger rod with the a 3.5 pound test curve, which really I shouldn't have done, and it was one of my favourite rods actually, and I just got it from a previous session fishing. So I was doing a demo with a 4.5 ounce lead. So I says, "Go on, Si, you have a go with this." And he forgot to do the big sweeping curve and pulled it back.
Well, I had a couple of goes, didn't I?
Yeah.
I couldn't get that big lead moving, Frank.
No, you couldn't.
That was the problem, wasn't
it? See, you build your way up to the bigger leads.
You build your way up.
Yeah, so you went big instantly.
I had another.
Yeah.
It was all right, Tobe. It was all right until we moved on to the bigger rod. The bigger lead.
Yeah, and then I heard the thwack. And then I instantly realised what had happened because Simon had column loaded it, because once you get to that, when you've not got a curve and you're pulling the tip back on itself, there's only one thing that can happen.
Sorry, could you just separate all the separate pieces so everybody can see the damage you've done?
So the rod broke, Frank. It didn't just break in one piece, it broke in two pieces.
It's a 4-piece now.
It's a 4-piece rod. It's handy.
It's a 4-piece travel rod.
Yeah.
And
I was relieved that because your mate, the koi gear, turned up straight afterwards. Cause
he lightened the situation because you were mortified, weren't you? And I was laughing because it's I work for Sonik, and they're a fantastic company, and I've never broke one of their rods during trials or practice, and that's the first one I've ever seen go. But no rod from any company could withstand having the tip pulled back on
no
itself.
Chance.
Yeah.
You've got to be very careful with that. And on my drive home, I was thinking, you don't bend a fishing rod like that. We have got a picture of the two of us actually with the broken rod.
Really?
As well. But we'll put that up later actually.
Yeah.
But so it's sort of a bit of an icebreaker, that, Frank, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good fun, and it did make us laugh, didn't it?
It did. There was something else as well. So when I was just about to leave your place, you had some pictures on the table. I've got the picture here actually. It's a very nice picture of a scenic shot with some rods out on a fishing lake. And you said, just as I was leaving, take that picture with you.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Yeah.
And I said, and you said that's Swan Lake.
Swan Lake at Milton Keynes.
Milton Keynes.
Yeah, what's it called, the complex? It's David Marl's place, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, I've been there many times. Older,
right, yes.
And that was Swan, wasn't it? Was it Black Swan it's called, that lake?
In that case, Frank, we're talking about different lakes.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I was at Swan Lake on the Mid-Kent fisheries.
Oh, so it's a different lake then?
It's a different lake.
Ah, right. Because when you said Swan, I thought you meant it's...
Yeah, no. It was...
well.
I went to... So that's taken a little bit of the...
That's blown that theory out the window, isn't it?
Well, it was still really, really strange because you said, take the picture, that's Swan Lake. And it's like, well, I was at a lake called Swan Lake yesterday, and I've never been to that lake in my life. And there's a picture of...
It was just coincidence, wasn't it? Like that.
But then you're quite spooky with like premonitions and stuff as well, aren't you?
Yeah. I was with you and Toby before. With my daughter, she's come down with us, Jade, and we were doing a little demo, weren't we, of the old mind reading.
We find that interesting,
didn't we? Yeah, we had good fun with this. This blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, and so I thought there's nothing like doing a live demo, didn't I? But I've had, I could tell you these premonitions I've had are like a pre-recorded video, the big ones that I've had. And do you remember the tsunami at Kobe with the nuclear reactors where reactor number 3 exploded and then the others followed suit? Well, I'd had a row with my missus. which isn't uncommon. And my son was about 8 then, my youngest son, Jamie, and he had a bunk bed in his bedroom like they do from being a youngster. So I was in the top bunk of the bunk bed in the doghouse. And I had the most incredible dream that night about, I'd just seen like black tar running over the land, and I seen nuclear reactors with a problem. But I didn't know whether they were Chinese, Korean or Japanese in the dream. And I woke up and Jamie said, "What are you doing, Dad?" It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I get a drawing pad out and draw these terrorised people running down the road with all the rubbish following them. I said it's going to be a big tsunami type thing with a nuclear disaster with it. Happened at 9 o'clock and I got up and drew it at 5 in the morning.
Did you?
4 hours before it happened. And the very fact it's so close to when it happened, and it was everything that I dreamt of. And then I started writing a book based on another dream about a world pandemic created by the Chinese.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I'm being 100% serious because I'd make myself look ridiculously stupid
right.
on a show like this. And several of my friends for the last... It happened 4 years ago, the dream, and all about it. I was writing a book about space travel, and I was well into the book. I kept reading bits out to the kids when they were smaller. It took me years. And I put that down based on this amazing, vivid dream. And in it started in a germ warfare unit in China. And I'll just tell you how it panned out. The Chinese released N371 virus, bird flu, into Europe previously, theoretically in the way that this dream had gone, to see
like swine flu.
No, it was like bird flu.
But yeah, right.
And there was swine flu in that,
Yeah,
but there was the
yeah.
bird flu in Romania was the first one. And they released them to see what we did about them. There was the one that they got SARS, but bear in mind this was a dream that happened. So they released them to see what the West did about them. And all we could muster up in the whole of Europe was 4 million doses of Novavirus, which is a generic antivirus to give people to create antibodies against that kind of COVID type thing. And they'd recognised the fact that we did nothing about it. So what they did was they genetically gene edited the virus from the bats, the COVID virus. They've interfered with it, so it's got particular bullet points to aim at certain races and certain characteristics. And what they do then, in theory, in the book that was writing, was they create a special flu virus for everyone in mainland China. So everyone thinks they're having a flu jab, which isn't. It's the COVID-19 jab. So that everyone of any importance in China, all the females are at a premium because there's not. They had one child sort of law for 20 years where you can only have one kid. So there was the Yangtze River was full of dead females because they wanted the son to look after them, the worker. So basically, they've got a legacy of, millions of males and not many females. So in all these were inoculated, the younger generations that are going to do all the work for the future, and the old people that are expendable weren't inoculated over a certain age, so they were expendable to take the population down. And then Chinese New Year, in my book that I was writing, these people go all over the world or back there and spread it exactly what happened. And all my friends, because I told them what I was writing about, and I was just getting to the point where, because of the research I was doing, where I was thinking, I'm going to finish this and get it out. I thought it'd make a great film, and the real things beat me to it.
Bloody.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of my dreams. I mean, do you remember a lot of what you're dreaming then?
Yeah.
Vivid detail.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes you wake.
You must have had somewhere someone's woke you up and thought, just why did you have to wake me up at that particular moment?
Yeah, or you've gone into a sleep and you've started dreaming about something that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know it's interesting. You wake up and then you've forgotten it straight away again.
Well, when I have one of those, the covers have normally lifted themselves off myself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean, though. Yeah. No, I remember. Obviously, when you're in deep sleep, they call it REM.
Yeah.
Rapid eye movement sleep.
Yeah, you go through like 5 cycles.
You're not supposed to remember any of those dreams from that because you're in a very, very deep sleep.
Well, you're getting deeper and deeper in REM sleep.
There's different levels, and that's the highest.
Yeah.
But somewhere you're in almost a subconscious state when you've just nodded off or just before you wake up. You can remember those, I think, But
Well, talking to Jade actually as well before we done this, and I was saying to her, sometimes when you're watching something on the TV, and then you, I was watching something a few years ago, and it was some sort of serial killer film. Fell asleep, and as I fell asleep, I was having a dream, which was what was actually on the TV screen. It was terrifying. Yeah, so your subconscious is still awake and you're still following what's going on the screen, but you're dreaming it instead.
Yeah. So that's a really weird state, that, isn't it? That's where.
But like you say, you're in quite light sleep there, aren't you? You're not in a...
Yeah, you're involved. You're in and out of the film all the way through.
Yeah.
And you know the plot, even though you've been dozing. Yeah, I know exactly. It's a very strange...
There's like 5 levels of consciousness. So you're about halfway down then. But and so, I mean, if you have these sort of dreams or these premonitions like that, I mean, is it good to be like that, or?
Oh no, it's there's certain things that I don't really want to recount now, but I've shook hands with people that I know it sounds weird. It's like a Stephen King moment where I've got this whoa bang, you're not in a good place, and I did it with I worked in an advertising agency called Conquest in Salford in Manchester. I started the job and they introduced me to about 20 staff, and there was a girl there, her surname was Crow, I won't mention her full name, and good looking girl, young, 24. She had a baseball cap on, dead trendy. There's a lot of younger people work there. I shook all the hands, I shook her hand, and bang, got that moment. And I thought, I got the job. There was about 20 odd people went for the job, so I bullshitted them and got the job and said I'd been a finished artist for 7 years. I hadn't even been a finished artist for 7 minutes. I worked in the dark room, but I needed the job. So I'd seen what the artists were doing and clocked how they did it, so I told them I could do it. I had to blag my way through the job. It was unbelievable.
So you had a bad feeling from her?
Yeah.
And, you would have been working for her?
With her.
Right.
In the same building, and I said when I started there, I said it was playing on my mind, and I says, "Is that girl okay there?" And they said, "Yeah, why?" I said, is she physically well? Is she, she's not got any medical conditions or all that?" I said, "No." I said, "Oh right, it must have been false alarm." Anyway, she had Hodgkinson's lymphoma. She was diagnosed with and died 2 months later.
My God, yeah.
And that was a bit weird, that. And I was like, And I've had it with a guy, Simon Andrews, who was racing the motorcycles, the superbikes. I was friendly with him, only as a Facebook friend. Met him at the circuit a few times, and I sent him a message, even though I've done racing, and I know a lot of the guys that do racing, and when it's your job, it's your job. You don't have to be put off by idiots saying negative things. But I'd had this most horrendous dream about him, super vivid, where he lost his life. And it was coming to that point where I thought, I've got to say something, because we're friendly enough to be having banter and jokes and, coming out with stuff. And I said, "Simon, do you have to do the Isle of Man TT in the Northwest 200? He says, "Well, I'm with Honda UK. I have to do it, yeah." He said, "It's my job." And it was on Facebook. I actually put it on, and it was everybody seen it who was interested in racing. I says, "Mate," I said, "I don't know which one it is, but you need to give it a miss this and just stick to short circuit racing." And he didn't. He did it, and he got killed, sadly, at the Northwest 200.
Very long after you put the...
Yes, just after, yeah,
Blimey.
literally. And
God, but when you're in a position like that, it's like, well, do I say anything or not? You know, it's.
Well, I felt I had to, but you can't. But by the same means, you can't change. It's almost like you can't change the future. You can see what's going to happen sometimes, but you can't. You wouldn't be able to see it because it wouldn't happen then, would it?
Mm.
So it's basically you're trying to divert fate, and it can't be done.
Are you feeling that all the time, or is it just certain?
No, not at all. Certain times, but I think it's. I found it when I've been stressed with high anxiety about something that it seems to be linked. So if I'm in everyone has bad periods in their life where your personal life's caved in and you've got, you sleep at night barely, but wondering how you're going to pay the bills or do this. It could be financial stuff. It could be job problems. It could be anything. And I found when I've been in those sort of states where you're very unhappy and on edge, that it seems to trigger it, and then it opens like a conduit to it, And I remember Dave Powell, we call him Dangerous Dave, fantastic guy. He's a long-time friend of mine. He packed in carp fishing for 30 years, became loaded, and then he's took it back up recently. And he fishes with John Lilly a lot on Rainbow. He just has quality now rather than quantity, And we were on Reedsmere years ago, and Dave was the regional organiser of the British Carp Study Group, and I wanted to be in that. It was almost like being in the special club, that sort of you've arrived if you're in the BCSG. That's how I used to see it, and it was almost like a seal of approval by some of your peers, and. I thought I was quite handy at the old carp fishing. I was catching loads of fish on the mere and everything, and sort of pioneered a few things as well. And so it was my time, if you know what I mean, a special time then. And I applied to get in the British Carp Study Group because I was banned from driving. I used to get banned quite regular because I still had the bikes and was tear-assing round on the roads like, I was going to a fire. As a copper once said to me when he pulled me, he said, are you going to a fucking fire? Luckily, my dad pulled up in the car behind him. After about 5 minutes, he'd only just caught us in his 3-litre Capri. And my dad was in the police then. He knew him. So he got me off. He said, he says, you do realise you've just been doing 129 mile an hour in a 40? I said, yeah. Anyway, so I got off it. That's a different story. But anyway, what happened was I was with Dave Powell. No, they won't let me in the BCSG.
Why?
They said that I've not fished enough waters, around the country and that. So I kind of had to agree a little bit, but I was banned from driving, and I couldn't get around. So I says, well, I've had 37 fish out of the mere this year. I said, that's not bad. He went, no, you're not being in. We've made the decision now. That's it. Apply again when you fish more waters. So I was a bit pissed off about that, I thought, you bastards. Anyway, Dave and Jim Indle and the others decided to come on Reedsmere. So this played right into my hands, it was great. So they stump up, and they're using tiger nuts, try to keep it secret, but they were all over the bloody place. You knew they'd been there. It was like a bad man's shite. There was tiger nuts all over the bank and the trees everywhere, And so I says, Dave, how's it going? Not had anything. Neither's Jim, neither's nothing. Not caught any. I said, I'm catching fish on the single up baits blasted out in the middle of the lake, and they're shitting tiger nuts out everywhere. I said, I think you're overdoing it with the quantities you're putting in, So he said, don't know about that. So I went fishing with him, and he fished this snag swim. And he's pulling him in for ages. I thought, he's creating a feature. And I said, Dave, that's way over the top. So I used 5 nuts. I took some off him. I was literally just chucking him in the edge and fished a boilie next to him. And I had this fish called ringtail, one of the big ones. I got to name it, actually. And I had single scale, 2 of the bigger mirrors in there. They were 26 each at the time, which was big in them days, certainly for the Northwest. And then Dave had a few bleeps on the rod using a bolt rig with Cortland Micron with a tiger on it. And it bit the entire rig off, and his lead was about 2.5 ounces, and it was completely mangled by the pharyngeal teeth. I'd never seen that before. And then he had the same occurrence on the other rod because he got that many nuts in. The fish was just on the spot, just chomping. I says, Dave, I want them leads. He says, no, I'm keeping them myself because the swivels were even damaged. And there's teeth marks all down.
Blimey.
So it tells how far back they'd had and how preoccupied they were. Anyway, I says, Dave, we need to move. I had one of these premonitions. I says, Dave, we need to catch your first fish out in the mirror. I'm going to help you. So we need to go in the spinney. And the spinney was a one-man swim, really. It used to have overhanging trees in and out of bounds. So I crept in there, and there's about 60 fish in it, which was basically most of the full entourage of what was in the mere. And the big mirror was in there, one that I'd had previous, just under 30. And I said, the big one's in there, it looks big as well. So I says, you get on the left, I'll fish in open water, you get in on the left. And we sat talking, and I says, Dave, lock everything up solid. And I had these pink fluoros, and he tried one reluctantly because he was using, he wanted to use tiger nuts. So he tried one. And I says, Dave, I suddenly got this thing. I thought, shit, his left-hand rod's going to go. He's going to get the big mirror. It's going to be 34 pound 4 ounces. So I says, Dave, go and sit on the rod immediately. You're going to get the biggest mirror in the lake. It's going to be 34.4. He went, are you fucking off your tits? He says, have you been smoking something? I says, just get on the rod now. Bang. Like a banana. Crank round. He hits it. Massive big battle. Zero the sling. 34.4 the big mirror. It's exactly to the ounce. He says, I can't believe this. So he told the story to the Angling Times because it's the biggest fish caught for that month. And it was called the Premonition fish. So when, front page of the Angling Times, so when I wrote the book, that one of mine, I wanted Steve Broad to go through the archives to find the exact story, the picture with the story to go with the story about that. Because I thought it was so sort of amazing, and Dave couldn't believe that I'd got it right to that degree. And I did it with Bernard Loftus as well. We're on the Top Flash. He was drinking Thunderbird wine and smoking some massive joint, like a trumpet. And it was red hot, and I was sunbathing. So we were all there, the Tomlinsons, Howard Whittaker. There was loads of us, like Roger Bacon, I think, was there. My old mate Rog, and Barry Middleton. There was loads of us. Bernard's in a big duck-down sleeping bag. Not really with it, I'll tell you. He had his leather cowboy hat on, sweating his balls off in this big sleeping bag. And I got this old VHS camera out. I stopped what everyone was doing. I says, everyone, Bernard's going to get a new late record in a minute. Left-hand rod is going to go now. So I set the camera up, got the camera on, put it on record, shook Bernard, says, Bernard, get up, you can have the big leather new late record, 32.2. 2 ounces less than Dave's from Reedsmere. He's like stretching. Wow, what are you on about? What all the bollocks? Beep. Left hand rod takes off. Battle. 32.2. In the net, on the camera. The whole shooting match. So,
when am I next going to catch a carp, Frank?
Well, I can't just do it like that. It'll suddenly come, you know. I mean, I can tell you so many instances.
I would say you can't make miracles happen.
Right, it would be a miracle. Yeah. He can have that for them.
Well,
yeah.
I thought he was supposed to be your mate.
Yeah, he knows.
He knows I love him.
Brotherly love. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a strange thing, you know, and I suppose a lot of the people watching this will think, it's a load of old bollocks that. Well,
you've thrown a few names in there as well.
These
so those
people are there so they can ask.
Yeah,
they can ask. So you know, I can only do what I've done.
So I mean, do you base fishing trips around premonitions and?
Sometimes, sometimes I've actually had it where it's worked against me, and we went to Rainbow in the winter for 2 weeks, and I was in Peg 14 sharing it with Hardy Velkamp, my friend from Holland. There was a lad called Jason Canny, he went down there. And when we arrived, I had one of them weird, horrible moments. I thought, this is just sickening, this. I said, I already know what the scores on the doors are here, boys. I said, I'm going to have a complete shitter. 29 pound 12 ounces. Hardy, your biggest is 37.4. Jason Can, you're going to have a 61 pound 2 ounce leather. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. At the end of the week, that was exactly what happened.
You need to think now, Frank, because we're going to Gigantica next month. Let me know, all right? It's interesting. Well, because we were doing this stuff with the phone earlier, weren't we? Where so Jade she put a number on the phone.
Yeah.
She showed us the number and you were guessing it, and you got the first one wrong, but you got the second one right.
But I told you why, didn't I?
Yes, you did. And then Toby.
And then I did one as well, and the same thing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I said what happens is I've got my own thought that clouds the issue.
So the emotion gets in the way of it a little bit.
So I go what I think it would be, but I even think of the number before, say, Toby's even chose it. So I explained that to you and said, listen, I've jumped in with this, but then the door opens and then the real number's there. And I said, it's 8. And then Toby had 8, didn't he?
6.
Sorry, Jade, 6. And then Jade had 8.
That's it.
But once I explained what was going on,
it was proper strange.
It's strange. Yeah, but no, it's interesting stuff anyway.
Yeah, it's good fun as well. You know, it's something that what I find that you should do this with your children or your family. If you're ever bored, get the kids and just get your phone out and pass them the phone and say, choose a number 1 to 9, and they've got to think of it, and you think of it, and see if you can read their thoughts. And with your own children and your own genetic
you would
copies,
expect to be aligned with each other.
It's much more pronounced than with strangers. It's incredible.
With strangers?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You try it with strangers that you don't initially connect with. It's different. The score rate is much lower than it is with your own family members. Yeah. Whether your mind just works the same, I don't know. But it's an interesting thing.
But you've got quite a sharp mind, haven't you?
I've got a strange mind, actually. I've got an inquisitive, inventive mind. But
what were you like at school?
I didn't have to study to know the subject. I was naturally gifted with English, I think, because we had a guy called Mr. Birtwistle. He was a brilliant teacher. You know, we always have a favourite teacher. He was one of them. And he used to encourage us to write a lot. And we used to write scripts for like Spike Milligan for comedy, because we used to do our own little comedy sketches like you would for Little Britain or something like that, and we used to piss ourselves. You know, youngsters, I had like-minded friends, and we all had our characters. It's like the Goons, so I'd write my bit and then pass it to my mate, and he'd have the reply. And you could have literally made some programs from those that were that sort of creative. And Birtwistle, we showed him, and he went mad. He went, "These are fabulous." He says, "Mate," he says, "your stuff," he said, "it had me in bits." He said, "It was very creative, that." And then I discovered I was good at poetry, which, can you imagine me? You know, it really, poetry, because they forced us to do poetry. So I won an award for it, and it was published. And I thought, I didn't see that coming. But
you said before you thought you've got like a photographic memory. Someone tells you something, you just remember it, and you can.
Yes, I can remember minute details of conversations from 40, 50 years ago. And I've gone up to people and said, remember that conversation? They went, "Who are you?" And it was someone that I might have known when we were 8. And I told my mum and dad I was born in Malta. My dad was in the Royal Navy and my mum was in the Wrens, which is the women's navy. And they were stationed in Valletta in Malta. So I was born in a military hospital there. And we moved from there when I was just 2. And I described Tarfa and Valletta in minute detail, and described that we came back on a ship and the cabin and everything. And it was exactly that. So they said, do you realise you're remembering things from when you were less than 2 years of age in minute detail? And I remember we lived in Edinburgh and being attacked by a cat, a wild cat, like a stray cat that when I was in a pram, it attacked me and clawed all my arms and my face, and I remember it clearly. And I was 3. And so I remember some.
It's funny because sometimes it's like mixing that stuff up with dreams. Yeah. And I can remember I have this vivid, I don't know, dream or whatever it is, of being in a cornfield, being in a cornfield, being stood by the side of a cornfield, or being in a big American city, and with these big buildings, and it felt like 1960s. Yeah. And it's like, is that a dream, or is that just? Or
do you think it might have been something? Do you think you could be born again, like like the Buddhists believe, where you could have?
I don't know. It's just
been something previously different.
It's strange. I love America. I absolutely love America, right? Yeah. And I know that we've had some comments which is it could be taken out of context a little bit, but I mean I love the States. Yeah. I've always had a real interest in everything American, and all of those visions is always America. Do you know whether it's a dream or whether it's actually?
Yeah. I think interests often come out in your dreams and that, and. It's in your subconscious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's something that you'd like to see more of or do. And I mean, I've dreamt about rigs that have come up with in dreams, woke up, done them, drawn them, and they've worked. And how weird is that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
where did the Chod rig come from?
Oh well, what happened was I was talking Mike Kavanagh, who's a good mate of mine. He is a great original thinker, I've always got a lot of time for Mike, and a gentleman as well, I might add. And he came up with the original stiff rig, which was about 4 inches long with black amnesia. And everyone that tried it had a lot of success with it. Because the fish were used to being fished for with nylon or supple braids, they were using Cortland Micron and stuff like that in the early days. And then they were using Dave Chilton's multi-strand. So it was all down the subtle, soft route. And as soon as you threw a stiff, awkward... I mean, Mike was telling me he was using 13, 40-pound nylon when he was testing it to start with. Screaming runs, fish got it in. Because there's no reverse when it's super stiff. So it's very difficult for him to eject, obviously. Or it was after the experience they'd had of having stuff that was easy to blow out the mouth. So I thought, I want to use that. I was speaking to Richard Seal, and he'd been using it a lot, having a lot of success. He was fishing with Rod Hutchinson at the time, and he was doing well. And I thought, I want to use it, but the mere where I was fishing at the time was just a lot of deep silt. And the thought of using an inline lead with a short hook length like that was just, you fishing in a mouse hole, or even if you landed on something reasonable, the stiff rig was going to sit upright like a dog's doodah. So it was just not going to present right. So I thought, right, how do I get around this? So I was messing around and I was thinking, I've had people say to me, it's nothing new that. People did the old silt rig, which was a piece of nylon with a piece of, you do a water knot and have a little length coming off it with a 3 or 4 inch hook length. Have you seen that tangle? I'd used that for years. A lot of the Cheshire tench anglers and all that had used paternosters. It was crap, tangle prone. So I thought, how can I do it? And I thought, if I put a stiff link on, shrink tube down and put it on lead core, so the lead core sits the whole lot down, and then you've just got to take it or leave it stiff link on it, like a 2-inch hook length or whatever you want to choose for the how far you want to fish the pop-up. That should work. And I messed around with it and cast it across a few lakes and went around, and it was perfect every time. And I thought, and it presented on weed. If you did a cast into silt, perfect. Candy floss weed, perfect. I thought, shit, what can be better than this? But it was still an experiment. So I thought, right, I'd messed around with it flying as well, so like not semi-fixed with the bead either side on the shrink tube. I used it so you could, like you would with a paternoster type of rig, or not paternoster, like a sliding rig, a helicopter rig, where you can adjust how far back you want the stop and that. I tried it like that, and I found it quite inefficient. The fish could move the head and get away with quite a lot. And when I did comparison tests, the semi-fixed version worked best. And I did it curving it as well, which must be said. Because I remember Terry, when we discussed it, when he renamed it a Chod rig, I I says, mate, he says, yeah, but you came up with the original rig. He says, but I put a curve in the hook length. I says, mate, we tried it with curves. We tried it like a bent up rig with a sort of 45-degree bend in the middle of the material. I said, and we used it straight or with a slight kick in it. I said, they all worked. There was no point in fanning around because it was so new. We didn't have to, but we tried it anyhow. And I used it on the Mere. I had a fish within 2 hours on it when it was fishing crap. And I remember old Andy Flint came across when I was landing the fish, and he says, this is a weird rig. You've got a trailer. Because he couldn't work out what was going on. And I had to show him the rig. I says, mate, I'm going to show you this rig. But just, it's so revolutionary and effective. Don't show it anybody and you'll catch a lot of fish on it. And he told quite a few people, Andy did. I mean, it was his prerogative, but I thought, cat's out of the bag now a little bit.
It's one of those rigs, though, isn't it? It's quite a simple rig to look at, but unless you actually knew how it worked, you know, it wouldn't necessarily put two and two together.
It was so different from the norm. When you first seen it, it was kind of like, because I remember Terry, he was on Manor. We were fishing on linear, and he was putting some time in. He was catching some good fish, but he was using his hinge stiff rig. But Terry was sort of super fussy about the spots because he had to be with that particular rig to fish on the clear spots. So we spent a long time getting his spots and then sort of sitting it out with him. And me and Mark Burgess went on there and we were using the Chod. Oh, I call it a Chod now. It's such a great rig, such a great name for it. The short rig was what I called it, yeah. But I think the Chod is a great name. I love that. And it's the first time I'd met Terry, and we sat till 5 o'clock in the morning talking. We just bounced off each other. It was an amazing sort of chat. And I says, mate, you want to be trying this rig? And he went, oh, oi, oi. He went, oh, don't know about that, mate. That looks a bit weird, that. And I says, mate, honestly, you want to try it? And we were catching fish, and Terry nodded off, and Mark fed the fish in the back bay and got them going on the surface. And he says, I'm going to get a rod in. I says, mate, it's Terry's water, that. I says, don't be doing that. So we woke Terry up, and they were going mental. 5 minutes, he comes round with a 31 and says, yeah, boys, take a photo. And anyway, that's the first time I met him, and we become good mates. He's a great lad. And so but it took him a good few years before he actually.
How long were you using it for before
it got popularised?
Yeah,
about 5 years, maybe 4 years, something like that. I remember I did a talk in Essex at one of the Carp Society shows. And it was like mega crowd there. There's probably about 500 people. And I decided to divulge this Chod rig, and I got it out, an actual one that I've been using with a squid pop-up on it. And I showed all the guys. I says, if anyone wants to see close up the rig at the end, how to use it, I'll show you. Oh my God. I was stood on a table like this, full of beer glasses, and it was like a baying mob of guys that they're all passing it around. And it must have been 500 hands touched the bait, so you wouldn't have wanted to use it. And there's this little bloke at the back, and he was only about 5'5", and he goes, I've missed all that, I can't see anything. And I had the rig still. I says, mate, you can have the rig. And I give him the rig. And about a week later, 2 weeks it was, he was dead pleased with the rig. There was a front page of Carp Talk, how he'd caught a personal best 3812 mirror with the exact rig with the bait on that had been handled by all and sundry.
No way.
That I'd give him, and he'd had his biggest ever fish on it. So that kind of showed how effective it was with a complete stranger just trying to, like that at that time, because they couldn't deal with it. There was no movement for the head or anything, But
because you're well known for single bait fishing as well, so coming up with a rig like that it kind of coincided with the way you were fishing anyway.
Yeah. Well, it was a match made in heaven, really. That I wish I'd have had it a good bit earlier, but I wish I'll be honest with you, I wish I'd travelled and fished far and wide with it more. I didn't.
You think a rig like that's almost comparable to like the hair rig? Because I mean,
not quite on that scale,
to
but
be able to
it was
throw
a game
rig
changer.
into anywhere and be able to fish. effectively.
Yeah, because I was lucky enough to be there when the hare was invented and came out. I was one of the first in the Northwest on it, and it was truly ridiculous. You know, on a waterway, you might catch one fish every 5 trips. You could get as many as like 15 fish in an evening session. And then fish that you couldn't catch in the winter, you suddenly could catch. You might get 3 or 4 fish in a day in the winter. So that suddenly proved that they were feeding really quite reasonable in the winter. So the chod rig wasn't that profound, but it was pretty decent because, like you say, it was so versatile. And now it's almost like you speak to a lot of people, oh, don't use the chod anymore. Oh, you know, it's not very good. And this, oh, no, don't use that. And use the Ronnie rig. And it's so... I mean, to me, the two aren't comparable. It's not a question of you just forget the other one. Because it's like, I always say, carp fishing is like having a game of golf. You don't just have one club in your bag. You have several. So I choose the rig based on what I'm finding is happening. But also, if you have the same thing on every rod, how can you learn if something's better or worse? So I always think that if you've got your best shot at that time that you think's the best thing since sliced bread, and you've got that on, and you try a new thing against it, and that starts out fishing it.
Are you always doing that? Are you always trying
something?
Are you?
Yeah.
See, I don't do that. I tend to sort of stick to what it saves confusion for me, Frank. You know, when I know that something works, I don't need to worry about having to keep ringing the changes. It could be a double-edged sword a little bit, can't it?
Yeah, well, of course it can. It's cost me loads of fish, but I've got no doubt that my experimental phases has cost me hundreds of fish and hundreds of thousands of hours. But for if on a set of scales, my successes have easily outweighed what I've lost by the ones that have bombed. Because, you know, you think back to the fluoros, the single hook bait fishing, the chod, the anchor rig, all these things, that they were different. So they were game changers for me. What other people did when I wrote about them or shared them gives me a lot of pleasure, because you think, well, I mean, there's tons of people that can catch fish, but actually doing something that creates a legacy where other people catch fish off the back of it, I think that's more important, you know.
Oh, some of those rigs really have done that.
Yeah.
So do you think you could just think a lot more than most people do then? I mean, when you come up with these, and when you explain how you've come up with these rigs and what the rigs, it all kind of makes sense, but you need to be thinking the right way in the first place to be able to even think about devising something.
Yeah, well, I have showed over the years, a lot of people will see something that makes perfect sense and they'll try it and catch fish on it, and then they don't know why they've stopped using it. It's because they've been swayed by the trend. So I've had that little anchor rig. I came up with it about 1984. That's caught me thousands of fish. And you can get a rig that's fairly basic, because I always get people saying to me, oh, simple's best, like a simple rig. Well, I like a simple rig as well, but I like an effective simple rig. So the two need to go together, because you can get simple rigs that are absolutely atrocious for hooking fish, you know. And I mean, one of the key things I'm always thinking about is the length of the hook length. You know, how much does it need to just get it in to hang itself, or when's too much and when's too short? So that's the first thing, and then I work about how it's going to stay in once it's in, once they've had enough rope to hang themselves, and is the lead big enough and all that. So I'm kind of constantly having a mind game based on what I think the bottom's like everywhere. I think, you know, no one's got that underwater vision. You can only go on...
What, are you always in that scenario where you're thinking, what do I need to be doing differently here?
Yes, because I think what happens is when you go on a new water, no matter what happens, you'll get someone come up to you and you go, listen, mate, I want to do my own thing. No, no bad feelings or anything, because they try to be helpful. They'll come up with, you need to be on that hump over there. It's 16 wraps, on line with that tree, about half a kilo in there.
I hear it all the time.
Hot spot. And you're thinking, I just beam me up. I just don't. I hate that. It's almost like, appreciate they're trying to be friendly and help you, especially in a new syndicate. They're all pointing out, and you're thinking, but you're not even catching that many yourself half the time. And you're thinking, don't interfere with my mind. I want to do it myself. And it might be the wrong way, but to me, that's part of the learning process, because if I'm getting it wrong, it can only get better, because I'm doing a comparison. So I round on, because I'm doing a different thing on every rod. Tim Paisley said to me when we went fishing on Cassian, he says, Warwick, what have you got on your rods? So I told him, he went, 3 different things. He went, so you don't know if any of them really work, do you? I says, well, you've got the same thing on every rod. Just because you've caught one time previous, that doesn't mean to say that was the best thing. You might have just been on a load of feeding fish and they would have ate an old turd. I says, so don't give me that. I said, because at the end of the day, if we were all the same, it'd be boring. I like to personally experiment. And I think how can you, there's loads of scenarios and comparisons you can do. How can you guess what flavour milkshake a complete stranger likes unless you try it different ones? Unless you go, there's orange, strawberry and banana. You like the banana one? No, I don't. It's as stupid as that. But if you was to try them and let them tell you.
When you're doing these comparisons, would you prefer to fish all your rods together, close together?
Yes. Yeah. Like a tabletop on a baited area. Yeah, I like that. Because it takes out the variables. You need a constant mean average where, and what I do is I do things like I'll number the baits 1 to 3, and then I'll put them in a hat and pick out left hand rod is number 2. Then it's more random rather than you going, right, I'm having that one on that and that. I want it totally random, so I play a game like that, and then I time the rods.
You said that match anglers do that, obviously.
Yeah, but one of the best tips I could ever give any carp angler, no matter how experienced or inexperienced, is we fall back on this thing called experience. And what do you do if you haven't got any experience? And what if your experience isn't very good? Because you've not really thought about why something's happening. So let's say you turn up on a lake that's got quite a good head of fishing. It might be 6 acres, 250 fish in there. So you're going to be near fish some of the time. So you decided to use solid bags. You've never been on the place before, and there's no one on to sort of get all the gen on. And then even if there is, there might be a plodder that likes sitting there and winding at 11 o'clock in the morning, which is, feeding time's over now, let me have a rechuck. Nothing happens. Oh, half an hour before it's dark, all 3 rods, fresh bag on, blah, blah, blah. So predictable. And so you think, how often should I redo a solid bag? Or a method or anything. But say you've got a solid bag and you've got the lead hid in it, and the 2mm, 4mm pellet combination, whatever you've got, is broke down, covered the lead. It's just a perfect mouthful, decent mouthful. You've got your wafter sat on the top, or your pop-up, whatever you want. So the fish has come in and triggered that trap. So it's not hooked it, and it's disturbed a lot, and it's all exposed. And the fish have gone, boop, avoid, and they're feeding round it. So they've avoided it and decided not having that. And it's all been stripped, so it's been exposed. So you're basically using a single up bait on a trap that's been found out. So you could go, oh yeah, I'll give it another 12 hours. That's gone. That's finished. It's out of the game virtually.
Well, and something like, especially with a solid PVA bag as well, because as well as carp, I mean, anything can disturb that rig as well.
Bream, anything.
And you could be not fishing with anything whatsoever.
Undertow could wash it all out and make it not so good. So you've done this on every rod, and then you go, and the fish are cute, and they've in that feeding mode where they're being cautious. So they've stripped you and done you, and you've had a couple of bleeps, and you're none the wiser, and you sat there for another 12 hours before you do it. It's like Cuttle Mill, when I used to go on Cuttle Mill, it used to tell you loads, because what a lot of people thought were liners, some of them were liners, because it was a massive head of fish in there for its size in winter. I used to test it in winter. So what you get is, you'd be thinking, is it liners? It was fish taking it on and doing you. So I realised what was going on fairly quick and thought, I'm going to keep topping up and recasting, but with every time get 10 millis in. I was using up to 10 kilo of freebies in a day in winter. Constantly feeding. And it was crazy fishing. Some of the time it was just phenomenal, like 2 on at once. And I think it was six 20s and a 30 before 11 o'clock in the morning. One time in January with frost on the ground, -6. Had a 33.10 on and a 26.6. And it was just crazy. But what had happened is, if you sat on your hands and hardly cast, the day would just ebb away, and you'd probably blank, or else maybe get a bite just at last knockings before he threw you off. But if you were busy, the fish, it's like a game of chess, constantly taking them on. And I think that's the same on every water to a lesser or different degree. So
I noticed that on Cuttle Mill, actually. I've only fished Cuttle Mill a couple of times. First time we fished there was in January. I was in Peg 16. Fish were mega active. They were showing all the time. We could not get a bite. Yeah. And I remember, because you're not allowed zig rigs on there, but I remember doing a 10-inch hook link off the lead. Yeah. Bang that out straight away. That's it, gone. Yeah. And that was like middle of the afternoon, and it was like...
So it was a clumsy zig rig then.
Yeah, clumsy zig rig. Yeah. But like I say, if you weren't making any changes, it wouldn't...
The day would just drift away,
But the good thing with fishing a water like Cuttle Mill is, you've got to be a bit proactive, because you haven't got that much time, have you? And when you're seeing things going on everywhere...
Oh, mate, it's the same everywhere. I think when I started timing, what you do is you go to the pound shop. So if you've got 3 rods out, you get 3 £1 alarm clocks. Set it on 12 o'clock. So the first one, you might put it on an hour. Second one, 2 hours. Third one, 3 hours. Or it could be anything you want. You could do it on half an hour. And then you could do it on your watch. So your first alarm will go off after 20 minutes, half an hour. So you time that bag and religiously recast it after 20 minutes or half an hour, and the other rod every hour, and the other rod every 2 hours or 4 hours, whatever you want. But if you do it differently, you keep notes, I'll guarantee there'll be one winner. Not every time, but mostly. Which one do you think it would be? The 1 hour, the 2 hour, or the 20 minutes stroke half an hour?
Well,
you already know, because we've mentioned it.
We have, but I was talking to a guy. I would say 20 minutes.
Mostly on most waters, the 20 minutes to half an hour it just gets more bites. It's ridiculous.
Guy called Craig Stevenson, really good margin angler. I don't know whether you've come across him or not. No. He would fish. He was one of these guys that would bait up lots and lots of margin spots. Yeah. He was on the move 24/7. And I remember talking to him a few times, and he said, the bites are quick. He said, if you're going to get one, it's going to be quick. And he said, literally it's like casting, if you haven't had a bite within 20 minutes, through going in the swim and watching the fish actually pick the rigs up.
You're in the wrong place, so there's something wrong, isn't there?
How long do you think it is? So if they've picked a rig up, they've got away with it, would you have to wait another 20 minutes for them to, or is it needs to be reset completely?
I think you can get bites just leaving it, obviously, or else
or by baiting up, putting some more bait out.
Well, I think putting fresh bait out is creating a problem all the time, because what happens is, if you take your hook bait out with bait that's not been touched, for example, say you've got some bait from your initial baiting up, you take it out, and everyone's way is to put probably a fresh hook bait on, especially if you're using bait screws that have to be screwed into a boilie. You're not going to use the same boilie and put it back out again. Just check everything's okay. Some people do. Tim Paisley likes doing that. Especially, he likes reusing a boilie that's just been in a fish's mouth that he's just landed. He'll do everything he can to reuse that, because he thinks that's at its best. There is that train of thought that you could think that, because any freebies that are still left will be swollen and washed out. And as soon as you put a new, darker coloured bait on it, it'll be odd and not match the paler baits that have bleached out and leached out. So if you really think like that, but I think it's better to just keep reintroducing food, because it's all the guys that do a lot of spomming. I think someone that turns up and puts 5 buckets in immediately, it's just not the way to do it, because it's almost like, I'm going to put this in whether you like it or not. Whether you're feeding or not, you're having this in the swim. And then I'm a real carp angler because I can spot 5 buckets in. You think, well, they might not be having it today. There's certain days, even easy waters, where they switch off and they're not in that feeding mode. So surely it's best to just do a really tight, nice area on a good spot. Let the fish tell you if they're having it. You can always add it, can't you, and build up. And I think a lot of people just don't get that. They think they don't get how to build like a match angler does, And I think also prepping, I like to prep a second spot, like match anglers again, that's not had any lines on it. So if it's so easy to fuck up basically and choose the wrong spot initially, and then the fish are close, because what a lot of anglers do is, I'm going to fish as far as possible. So it's better to fish a little bit closer, I think, and then you've still got more to creep out in, and your lines haven't ballsed you up straight away. Because if you start long, and lines definitely piss fish off, we know that, you've kind of ruined all your close-in spots. You've
cut everything off.
Yeah, you've burnt your britches instantly. So if you start closer and work your way out, it's surely better on maybe 2 spots, with one like that, so that more chance of intercepting, or something in between, 3 rods on a diagonal line, I mean, I was going to do that in the book. I did a few chapters all on strategic placement of hook baits and your baited area, because I think that's super important. I know we were veering here and everywhere with this, but I think, for example, it's very easy on most waters when you get in the swing of it to work out where the fish are going to approach from. On Horseshoe, when I used to do the interregional matches, they'd start off in the Summer Bay, down the trout bank, and work the way round. So it was clockwise. And you knew they were coming because you'd see people getting runs on the way down to you. And you'd get 3 runs, and then they'd eat all your food and then piss off. And then the person to your left would get. So I thought, I need to maximise this. I need to get more bites.
Do you find that the rod that goes first is always the one that's on the first one that they're going to approach from whatever direction?
Yeah. So what I do is, imagine that was my baited area on Horseshoe in that scenario. I positioned all 3 rods on the exact edge of the food that they were going to encounter first. Because I've said it many times, when you see birds feeding or anything, they don't go right in the middle of the food. They start on the edge. Why would they miss a load of food and go into the middle of a minefield that's dangerous? They start on the edge, the first bit of food they encounter. Birds do the same, even though they're not fished for. They'll start where they feel safe, but never go to the middle. Never. Unless they work their way through it, all the way around the edges first.
So you're always fishing on the front edge of the bait?
I fish on the edge that I think the fish are going to approach from, and if the fish are in the sanctuary in the middle of the lake, and I'm fishing long, I position all 3 hook baits on the back of the bait, even though you've got lines running through the bait, because they're still going to encounter them first. And then what I did on Horseshoe, I got bites on these rods here, and then I got another bite of the cherry because I got them repositioned, and when they were working the way through the bait, I got more bites.
Yeah,
so
I could see
it's
that.
Important,
especially on a low stock water where you haven't got a lot of fish as well. Like so you might only get 1 chance, but you could have had possibly more chances if the lines were in at a different angle.
Yeah.
There's a chance that all 3 rods can go rather than just that first one on the end.
Yeah, I think it's crucially important, that, and so I wrote quite a lot about that, how to make the best of, the good times when they're in on you, and same as.
Does it matter whether you're fishing what type of venue, whether it's a heavily stocked venue or or a lightly stocked venue?
No, I still apply the same logic to it because, it's... I mean, how many times... You see these people using radio-controlled boats, and when they've been used a lot on the water, they become super predictable because they're not used sympathetically or creatively. Because you can just imagine it triangulating down a bit, and it's so predictable, and then the upbait's whoosh, straight in the middle of that.
Always in the middle.
So, they got two uppers on them things. So if you're going to be smart about it, why wouldn't you just put just a hook bait and maybe a couple of just the smallest of handfuls or a bag in one? Do your main hopper, that's your attraction area, and then go 6 feet off it and just drop your bag off it. But they tend to just go whoosh, all in the same spot. And you never see people using single hook baits with a boat. Even though you've got the ability to put them in some incredibly awkward places that you can't possibly cast to, you can send the boat, in under trees, crazy places. Human nature is so predictable because you just go, I've got to have food in there. Before you know it, the hoppers are filled up. You've got a shitload of food in there, and that's way too much for a quick bite. They've got too much choice.
Yeah.
Put a single under somewhere obscure or anywhere.
Just going back to your bait and fishing on the edge, would it bother you if, say you were fishing to the left and the fish were coming from the left-hand side. Yeah. Would it bother you if you were baiting there and you had your lines going straight across the baited area to that?
No.
Doesn't bother you?
No.
Yeah.
I think you can overthink it. I mean, we know that fish bump into lines and it spooks them and stuff, but I think when you catch fish generally, they're really having it. They're really having it. I think when you catch one or two in a session, the fish are still feeding pretty good. I think when you have one of them crazy days where you get 8 or 9 fish, they're going mental, and they would suck the bark off a tree. And I think the days when you go in the winter and you think, they're not feeding. Oh, they're feeding. It's just that what we're using isn't adequate because it's all percentages. If we were to analyse, if we had a bleeper for every time that they suck your hook bait in, spit it out, we'd be going crazy. We'd be going crazy. I mean, what I wanted to do is a suggestion for Dan, by the way. I still think there's a lot of work to be done with the underwater films. I got why he did them the way he did and all the rest of it. They're very interesting. And I think we should do more. But I would have loved to have seen... Remember that time, typically Dan would be on Wellington Country Park in the snags. Damo would be in the biff or alley. Okay, Dan, there's no fish in the swim. So Dan had put the rods out. Well, I want to see the baited area with a rod crashing in there when they're in there and see their reaction when a rod, because we wouldn't have the benefit of seeing what's going on. So I want to know what they do when a 5-ounce lead with a bag on it comes slamming in over the baited area. And then, to make it more interesting, the second rod, like we tend to do, because most people tend to do all 3 rods at the same time, crash, crash, crash. And then I would like to see a clock ticking away and see how long it took them to come back, if they did come back.
Do you think they do come back? And do you think it takes very long? Or is it just dependent on the, on the day?
They'll come back sometimes, but sometimes not. It depends on... That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
This will answer that question. It won't answer every time, but it'll give you a clue as to just how devastatingly bad it is to put 3 rods in at the same time. If we did it sympathetically with 1 rod and then a 2-hour break and then go, right, I'll put my second in now because it's not going to cause... But human nature is, I'll do all 3 before I go to bed. You know what I mean?
I do that as well. I mean, I do all 3. I mean, my thinking is I'd rather get everything over and done with in one quick block of time.
But that's a very fair comment. But I think, do you do that when you turn up and you don't know what's in the swim, so you bait up and then bang, bang, bang. Yeah, you tend to because you have to, don't you? Because there's not many people could sit there with just 1 rod in and go, yes, 2 hours is up, time for number 2 to go in. You're eager because it's your day off and you're thinking, let me get them bleeding rods in there quick. So I know it is, but it might be prudent at times to just take it a bit easier.
I do think we use too many rods in swims at times as well. I mean, are you like that as well? I mean, would you fish one rod or?
Well, how many times, right, have you turned up, particularly in winter, and you've still got a bait on from the previous session, maybe a rig, and so you put your lead on, you do a single, and it's pull the rod round. You've had a bite quick. You think, whoa, yeah, and then you've had another on it, and then thought, do you know what? I'm having two in there. I've got to have two in there. Finish. Bye-bye.
Seen it recently, Frank? Yeah. It is. I mean, it's certain swims, you'll get in there, you'll see someone sat in there for 4 days or whatever, not get a bite, probably because of the association with the line. Someone goes in afterwards, first rod goes in and it goes up. Yeah. Certain areas definitely seem to. Another thing I want to talk to you about, because you're talking about rigs as well. Yeah. I read an article maybe like a decade ago. You were talking about long shank hooks. Because you're a big advocate.
Yeah, I still use them a lot now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember going to France maybe 5-6 years ago, and my friend, I'd never used long shank hooks before, and my friend was basically doing a like-for-like long shanks against normal curved shanks. Yeah. And the long shanks were just devastating. And I think he had to change hooks as well. I think he ran out of hooks. Right. And when he went to a more sort of regular pattern, it made a difference. And
a negative difference.
A negative difference. Yeah. My first year on the syndicate, I used size 6 hooks. Yeah. Curved shank with some shrink tubing, a normal rig. Yeah. And I had one bite that year, and it was a tench. And people turn around and go, "Oh well, you got a really, really sensitive rig there." It's. I thought, well, actually, I don't think that. I think curving the hook and having that extension on that actually closes the hook up a lot, and you're more prone to catching smaller fish. Yeah. But we're not allowed long shank hooks on the lake. Right. So I got the stiffest coated material you could get. Yeah. Made a multi-rig. And use the
hinge further down
with the hinge, and that made the following year it was just ballistic compared to.
Well, why do you think that is?
I don't. The hook holes are all in exactly the same place as well. I think I don't know the way the hook travels into the mouth and the distance that it travels into the mouth.
Well, I think for starters, a long shank will always twist onto the point quickly, because I use that anchor rig for all shorter shank rigs, and it's like a ship's anchor. The T-bar on a ship's anchor is there to flip the anchor onto the points of the anchor, so I put it through the shrink tube on a short shank hook, and it turns it and makes it flip literally in 1 millimeter, whereas you can just pull it off your hand with most of them. But a long shank, because of the nature and the physics of the way it's built, it's creating a fulcrum where it's forcing it, the bait's dragging it and forcing it to turn onto the point. But it's also not going to turn around as quick because it's longer. It's a more awkward thing. And it tends to, but it's searching for a grip quicker. And I've always maintained this. And
Are your hook holes consistently middle lip normally with those as well?
No, not always. No, I've had them in the top lip as well. But it's when I use the anchor rig I do, because it'll rear up like a scorpion tail sometimes. It's either right in the bottom or in the top. But with the long shanks, it depends on what I'm fishing over. If I'm fishing over particle and stuff, I've basically had them fairly neat in the bottom lip. But if I'm fishing boilies, it's almost like they've just gone to move somewhere else, and I've caught them in the side of the mouth sometimes. Not always in the middle. I don't know. Yeah. So when they're like that, I've tended to get them right slap bang. But when they're browsing on bigger baits, no, it varies. It's not an exact science at all.
Maybe not. I've been using a more particle recently as well when I've been fishing, and I had to change from that multi-rig onto a different rig, and the other rig, the hook can just move around a lot more. And crikey, it's like the difference is really, it's really noticeable.
Yeah, well, here's one for you to ponder on, right? One of the things that struck me a lot is I very rarely use pop-ups now. I mean, they look nice on the rigs when you chuck them in the edge and all the rest of it. But they're, by the very nature, they're easier to blow out. It's obvious. A pop-up's going to be floating around higher up in the mouth. So it's not going to enable the hook to find a grip in the lower part of the mouth that you would want, because it's out of the way. It's almost like having something bobbing around the ceiling when you want it actually dragging. It's like having a ship's anchor that's sort of got a buoyancy aid on it, as you want it to actually skid along the bottom and grip, not sort of be interfered with by something lifting it off the bottom and bouncing it. Does that make sense? So I used to laugh at people. There was a lot of the southern guys. I was on the pop-ups right at the very beginning with the hair, so I had them at the same time. And the pop-ups were amazing because they were so different, and the fish just were thrown by it. But once they'd wised up to the pop-ups, I used to get a lot of the southern guys that I bumped into on my travels go, bottom bait for me every day. Nah, pop-ups, nah, the shit. But it's a different strata they were fishing on, generally gravel pits or firmer bottom. So the bottom bait not only would have been good on that, but it's mechanically sound, a bottom bait, because it's heavy and it wants to act as a drag to create the turning on the rig quicker. So I was fishing Birch Grove, many years ago on the winter syndicate, and I had to fathom it out myself. I tried all sorts. Tried fishing on bait, tried bags, singles, tried using some unorthodox things in the winter. I was using sugar lumps in the PVA bag soaked in various substances, including salt as well. I was using sugar, salt, and the sugar lumps had all kinds of stuff in there. Some essential oils. I was using L030, liquid liver, anything that wouldn't melt the bag too quick, to get it out there. And some interesting findings with this. Anyway, what I noticed was that I started having them, and it was a wafter, a fast sinking wafter, not one that's sort of like dead slow, but quite fast, like a free offering would be, just knocking the weight off the hook and a little bit of the hook length. And I started having them then, and it was like opening the floodgates. And I caught, the best I was 13 in a day. And but I had the video fish and the red eye common in a brace, and I lost another big 30 at the net. It would have been three mid-30s in a January day, that would have been. And to give you a clue, the other rotor, the other 4 guys on there, they had 4 fish all winter. Yeah.
So didn't you say as well, because they were putting a lot of bait out?
They were putting a lot of bait in, and I couldn't get a bite up until Wednesday. If I went earlier in the week, because it used to change on a Saturday, so I started going the tail end of the week when their bait had been eaten by the tufteds and the mallards and any other nuisances. So they were overdoing it with the bait for sure. It was just ruining it, the fishing, giving them too much choice. And so when I'd make the exact same baits. I was using Longshanks, so I had Rod Hutchinson's Sublime flavour. Now there's a flavour. Wow. It smells like grapefruit. I always like Rod Hutchinson's flavours better than most. They were the most beautiful, strong, luscious, long-lasting flavours. There was something about his flavours that I loved, and as well as the fact they were brilliant. And so I was on the Sublime, and I'd got a fructose in there, and I'd got citric acid, loads of butyric acid, much more than I told people in recipes.
How much?
About 30 drops to 1 egg.
Oh wow!
Yeah, enough to blow your tits off. And because the colder the temperature, the more
you said this, expands.
The more viscous.
Yeah.
Butyric is one of those strange compounds. The colder the water, the faster it disperses. So it's giving off a big kick, but it soon flushes. So in the winter, you must use a lot more butyric than you would in summer. So it doesn't come out as easily in the summer. It lasts longer in the bait. So but in the winter, triple the dosage. And you'll get away with it. And there's no higher limit for butyric. They love it. You can use a lot. Well, there must be some ceiling for it, but I've not found it. In food, you can go really quite heavy. Everyone's checking the shoes for dog shit when I'm using that, because I have a lot in the bait.
Yeah,
honestly,
that stuff stinks.
Yeah, and but where I was going with this, split the baits into two, but I added a sinking element into the pop-up mix to create a fast sinking wafter. So it was identical. With a small shot on, a number 6 or number 4, even close to the bottom, I could not buy a bite on Birch Grove with a pop-up on. I could not buy it. No matter what I did, it wouldn't go. And it was like driving me crazy. And then Ian Poole came on. And he fell straight into it. He was using pop-ups. And everyone had it. Shoes had it. I remember Shoes was blanking his whatsits off. And I said to Shoes, shall I show you what I've been doing? And I shouldn't have done it. I was an idiot. I unshipped my rod. It'd been flooded. He'd been on for about 5 days. And I says, listen, Shoes, it's the wafters that are doing it, not a pop-up. He'd got a shot on all his rigs. I says, I'll show you a good hot spot. And I flicked it out. I said, he'll confirm it. It was a couple of seconds. And we didn't even have a net set up. He had his net. And he was round the corner in his swim. And I'd still got mine in my bag because I was showing him something in this swim. I says, Nipper, get your net for us. And it was a 30 and I lost it. But right close in before he got back. He had it dogging around. But that was on a wafter. So I showed him, I says, it'll either be you or me that's the top rod because you live close to this place and you can fish it a lot more than me. But I've been having a beano. But if I make it a pop-up, I can't get a bite on it. Exactly the same thing. Mm. So he did. It's like throwing a switch. So like a mug, I told Pooley as well. And, he was the opposition. And then as soon as I showed him wafters, boom, throwing a switch.
Have you always been that sort of guy that, you can't really be super secretive all the time? You just want to share things with people? Because
I think I've met a lot of people that are a one-trick pony in my angling life, and they want to protect it fiercely, the one edge they've got. And I don't blame them if that's... They might have a couple of things, but they fiercely they'll want everything off you, but they'll hide everything they do. And I find it sort of strange that. But then, of course... You can't ever take it back once you've let the cat out of the bag. And I've been an idiot in some ways because I should have think what I could have caught if I'd have kept some of these things to myself for a long time. But part of the fun is when I snuff it, a lot of people go, "Oh, Warwick, he caught loads of fish." They'll be going, "Do you know what? He put something back. He did. He actually." Did something that become a bit of something that we use day in, day out, or on a reasonably often basis. And I think that's a much nicer thing to be remembered for, because tons of people have caught lots of fish. But I think it's putting something back for future generations or for other people.
And you like seeing other people be successful as well.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be a pretty sad individual if you didn't like watching.
It'd be horrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
There's plenty of them out there, but
I know, but I do you know what? I always treat people with respect. If they're, I treat them how they want, how I'd like to be treated, and if they abuse that's their problem. But it's, you see people being standoffish and that, you think, whoa, your life's too short for that. I'd rather help someone out. Not to the point where you can't get on with your own fishing. I've had that, I've given all my bait away before as well to the kids and everything. I thought, shit, I've got no bait left now, I've done that many a time.
But giving that Chod rig away. Do you think, I mean, will you look back at the, if you were ever going to look back at your carp fishing life and think, I could have made some money from carp fishing?
Oh yeah, I could have, because I don't think I've got that nature somehow. I don't think I've never been comfy taking money off people, or I'm not a money-orientated person. And we all need money, of course we do. But I kind of, as long as I can get by and just sort of cover stuff, I've never really been entrepreneurial enough to, from the business side. I've had the ideas side. I've got all that. But, I mean, you got to look at Danny's an amazing business mind, with Korda. You just can only look at this place and it's just like blew my brains out. I thought it'd be big, but not like this. This is mental. So, and I remember him in the horse box sort of shed type thing he started off in. Or probably that's where he'd moved. He'd probably had something worse than that before then. And to see what he's done, so he's got a business mind. It's obvious. And I wish I had, because I had all the elements to have done it. But
do you think you could be a good businessman? You just haven't tried.
I think was always scared of tying myself down to where I was scared of it damaging the fishing. I was that obsessed with the fishing. I didn't want anything to get in the way where it could... I panicked when my wife was pregnant with Jade. I was thinking, oh, that's it now. This is really it. We've really shit the bed now. My life is finished. My fishing's going to be ruined. I'm going to be doing this and doing that. And there's going to be family holidays where I'm going to have to waste 2 weeks when I could have been fishing. That's how selfish and stupid I was. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are like that. And you look back and you think, what an asshole.
Does she ever turn around to you and say, "Look, why aren't you making the most of what you've got here?"
Yeah, well, I could have done it, and she's constantly on my case. We've had massive fallouts. I nearly bailed out because of it, because she did me head in, saying, "You had everything there and you didn't do it, and you're a letdown, a failure." And I think, well, it depends how you would label a failure. I suppose monetary terms, yes, but not in rich memories. What you've got to remember is my obsession with fishing. I kind of retired at 30. And that's being realistic. I sort of had the life that everyone else would want to do, because I didn't know how long I'd live. Never knew really how long the journey would last. So you see a lot of people, and this will resonate this. You see a lot of people, they've got all the nice house, they've got fancy cars, they've got this, that and the other. And their one big thing is 2 weeks in Italy or France every year. Or it might be 4 if they're getting giddy. But it's usually 2 weeks, 2 separate weeks. And it's like, so they're willing the whole life away to get them 2 weeks. They put it with all the crap, all the working in a boring, shitty job or something where they really don't want to be. And they've got their 2 week fix every year. But I wanted my life to be all the fishing I wanted and somehow make a living out of it. And I knew it would never be a big living. It would always be sort of frugal. But I'd be deliriously happy. But the payback is when you hit 60 or retirement age, no pension scheme, no house paid for, or no this or that. So I guess my payback time, where I'm going to get my head cut off, is now.
It's around about now.
Yeah. So... But I've had the most amazing life when I was in my best years. Imagine you get your pension. You've hit 65 or whatever. You've worked your balls off all your life. You get your pension. I've seen a lot of my dad's friends do this. They think, yeah, I'm gonna have a great time now. Bang, dead. Snuff it. Heart attack. Unexpected. Boom. Something happens. And then all the dreams that they prepared for 30 years for are all washed down the drain. I made sure I got my 30 years in where it mattered. So it was irresponsible.
What about the family stuff then? Do you still think you've been a good father and a good husband for all this?
Well, I think, yeah, I do actually. I think, see, what I did, I very quickly realised that the fishing wasn't the be and all of everything. When you see kids come along and you get so much pleasure and happiness, and then... you think, whoa, this is much nicer than I thought this. So I actually was there from always, or tried to be. Of course, there's been periods when I've been away fishing abroad and things that my missus probably put up with more than she should have done. She should have bailed out with some rich guy years ago, especially a good-looking one that's got loads of dough. She'd have been laughing. Anyway, but she's a stubborn bugger. She's put up with me, so she's amazing, really, And she's carnage and amazing at the same time. But
is your family is it exciting then? Because he's never quite certain what's going on.
Yeah, I'm always on the edge of divorce. What I've said to my wife quite often is, can't you move back in with your mother? And she don't fancy the job, because I've offered her a divorce so many times. Maybe once every week I go through that routine. And she just keeps hanging in there.
Is that just to reassure yourself that she really does love you, though?
No, I think she's institutionalised. Right. She relies on me for that much nonsense. She's not very good with doing...
There she is, Frank.
Yeah, there she is.
And the kids...
That's when the boys were younger there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a good-looking woman.
She is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, she's a model, actually.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
What did you say about her legs?
They went all the way up to her arse.
You said something else as well.
I never said that.
No,
I said she's got fabulous legs. Yeah.
No, a nice catch, Frank.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was punching a bit there, wasn't I?
Yeah.
But
she what was it? The charisma then?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was the fact my PB was quite impressive.
Was it? That impressed her. I said to Jade...
You don't know what my PB is, though, do you?
Are you going to diverge that?
No. Use your imagination.
Yeah, you're thinking, Joe?
No.
No, but like I say, so you haven't really necessarily got any regrets regarding it.
No.
What was the one thing then that you think that was the one that if I was going to take something to market, I could have done well from that.
The fluoros. The fluoros, without a doubt, because I know I joined Dynamite Baits, and they were the turnover with the British breadcrumb at the time. The turnover was $400,000, and Pete Chandler had the vision to get me involved because I did a talk at Tackle and Guns and introduced the fluoros to a lot of people that hadn't seen them before. This was years after I'd been using them. So it was all that to me. I was like bored stiff with it, but I thought, because they said, what are you taking? So I said, I'll take some fluoros. Because this is the organiser. They said, Bob Nudd and all the others all bring stuff and sell them. You got any videos? I says, no, Len's got the right to all them. I signed that away, And anyway, so I took some fluoros and they went mental. It's a long story. I won't bore you with it, but Ian Welsh had some carp in a tank, and I says, "Can I chuck some of my fluoros that I brought down into your fish?" He says, "Frank, don't make yourself look an idiot." He said, "They've been stressed to buggery, them fish. They've been moved, and they only eat carp pellets." He says, "And even now they won't eat carp pellets. If I put them in, not for a couple of days, they won't eat any, or maybe 24 hours." I says, "Well, I'm willing to take the risk," and there's a load of people who heard it. So I've got some pinks and some fluoro oranges, and I got the pineapple embuterics, and I got some like squid ones, and I'd even took 2 10-kilo bags down. I think, one 10-kilo bag, just to give away. And I'd done 100 pots. I bought the pots, took them down. And Ray Day Smith, while I was doing the talk, said he'd have them on the stand. And he had Mark Hutchinson with him. So left all the pots on there. I was doing my talk about how I'd use the singles and this, that, and the other. And I put some in the tank, by the way, and every fish in that tank had them in the mouth. They spat them out quick.
Did
they? Every single fish tasted them because it triggered a feeding response. And that's all you need to get a bite.
Any particular bright colour or just...
I'd go for... My number one choice always would be orange.
Orange? Really?
Mm.
That looks like it sits right in the middle of the colour kind of index.
Yeah.
Why do you think orange? Just the
amount of success I've had on it.
Yeah.
Now...
Do you think that's why Tutti Fruttis were so? I mean, we don't see orange so often. But you don't see so many people using orange nowadays.
Well, I'll tell you what you don't see people using, red. Because Yuzi, he was often writing about red is at the end of the spectrum where they can't see it in anything under like 4 feet of water. And it's virtually invisible. So everybody obviously subconsciously has bought into that and they avoid red like the plague. You just don't see companies selling red fluoros. I don't see any of the Korda boys in the films using red ones. They'll use yellows or they'll use whites a lot.
It's usually yellow, white, or pink, isn't it?
Yellow, white, or pink is the 3 go-to specials that people will write. I mean, I got the white dye first. Let's have that right out. I got it before Hutchinson, everybody. Duncan Kay sourced it for me in German, a German company. Titanium dioxide. He said, "Do you want anything?" Got the white. Had it first. It was ridiculous. It was like having the hair rig again. That was times 10. It was mental.
Freebies and everything.
Freebies.
See, that's something that just doesn't. That's not getting used at all.
It is not getting used. White freebies. The nearest you get to that are a lot of companies do pale freebies, and when they've been in the water for several hours, they go very pale, which it means that white would be even more compelling because you can short circuit that paling off sequence and then turn up with white freebies. I mean, you just don't see it.
No.
And or else the only time you see it is in shit baits. And I'm not being rude by that, but you know,
Semolina base mixes.
Yeah. People just do cheap old baits without much thought going into it, and they'll do a load of tat to put in. But if you did a real good, interesting sort of, I mean, okay, there's things like tiger nut. That's an exception. That's a nice thing to use in a bait. So, if with a bit of thought and consideration, you could use some white freebies.
What would you use it with, like a milk protein base mix, or because
because
we're being restricted by the base mixes nowadays as well, aren't we?
Yeah, well, you can listen. Carp eat bread. They love bread, so you could do a mix that's got calf milks in and some of the tiger nut proteins. You could use 20% white breadcrumb. White breadcrumb is a seriously good ingredient to put in a boilie for carp. Don't forget that, it really is. And it's been highlighted to me by people that I've got a lot of time for in the bait industry. That used it in their baits.
Are they?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's I've used it. It's a cracking ingredient. So you could easily use it within the bait, And so a white, very decent bait would be easily achievable.
But even like with sweet corn, right? I know I keep mentioning sweet corn a lot on the podcast, but I mean, you don't see yellow freebies, do you, very often, or not that replicates?
No. Well, the problem is now, you see, in Europe they're banning all the synthetic dyes. So the EEC's gone crazy. They're banning things like they've just banned cayenne pepper, and that goes in. They're talking about banning chilies.
Oh,
that goes in most savoury flavours. So where's that going to leave us? So any bait company that wants to export to Europe is going to have a problem, literally. So there's all kinds of stuff on the horizon like that. So you might come out and bring a gorgeous sweet corn yellow bait out, and then you can't sell it in Europe because you've done it a classic sweet corn colour. So you'll have to use a basically just a natural dye. There are some out there, there's some Carafil red, yellow and bronze. That's made from natural pigments. They do the job as well, but they're expensive, which was one of the best carp attractors of all time, by the way. Carafil, it's part of what makes rubbing red. And you obviously know about all that, yeah.
Yeah, well, we used to use it a lot.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And I was going to say to you, with flavouring baits and stuff like that, with the empaturic and the pineapple and stuff, was that a concoction that you
yes
put together?
Yeah.
Why do those two work so well?
Well, what happened was I used to know a guy called Richard Tennant that worked for Rod Hutchinson, and he was a confidant of mine. We used to exchange information. This was 1990, 91, and he said, "Oh, you want to get on the Nouvelle Fizz Autumn Harvest that Rod's bringing out?" So I was doing the singles, so I put them together in a blend, in a single, and it was just the most amazing, effective, great smelling thing. So I called them fizzers. And when I went making bait for Trevor Wimslow, that was the most success. I did them commercially, and that was the most successful hook bait by a mile. But Richard, he told me a story. I won't mention the angler. There was quite a well-known angler from fishing down south, quite high profile, and he worked for a company, and he found out about a guy that was emptying all the waters where he was fishing, and he was deadly curious about what this guy was using. So he went up to him and offered him a couple of grand's worth of Fox gear. Anyway,
be careful.
Yeah, I'm only kidding. And he offered him some gear to find out what the recipe was. And the guy refused, and in the end he caved in because he got bribed. And he was using a fish meal. Well, not a lot of fish meal in it, but he was using Rod Hutchinson's Nature's Gems. It was like jam pulp, a bit like he had a strawberry one and a blackcurrant one. And it was literally what you make in the jam process. It was like pulped fruit. So we know that the carp like sweet things and fruity things. So you put that in the bait, and it wasn't a remarkable seller. It was almost like ahead of its time, and it bombed a bit. I had it in the shop, and it was like, gathering dust. So I thought, I'll use it. Anyway, Richard said, "Hey, this guy's just come in and had a shitload of these Nature's Gems, particularly the strawberry one." And he said, and the big secret that was in it was the N-butyric acid. So that's what set me off on the N-butyric acid. This was about 1991. So I rung up Bill Cotton because I couldn't think of anywhere else to get the N-butyric. And I says, Bill, I want a load of N-butyric. He went, oh, you arse. He says, we were going to phase that bastard out.
Really?
He says, no one ever asked for that anymore. He says, we wanted to get it off the list. I says, you're kidding. He says, no. He said, we're all like that. Who's got the short straw is decanting the N-butyric and doing that all day and putting it in the bottles. He says, we wanted to get rid of that, stinking the bloody factory out. I says, well, I want a load. So then I told my mates about using the N-butyric with the fruit flavours. So I tried it with the fizzers, and they went up a notch. And then I knew Kev at Mainline, and he was, sending me bits and pieces. And I was one of Steve's first customers, so met him going to Shanty in the early days and got a load of bait off him and that. So we had that long relationship. So Kev sent me this pineapple through, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. So I mixed it with the N-butyric acid. Mega.
That's a good one, that.
Yeah, that became, like the fizzers, that became a go-to thing. And then it started off in Cheshire and just kind of spread. There was like Gaz Fairham was into it, and Rob Gillespie and all the lads from the Mere and that sort of locality started. It kind of just spread, and now a lot of those guys are absolute experts at making good singles.
That's one of the best bait combinations ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah. And there was a great angler called Gary Mitchell that used to fish the Mere. He was a naturally very good angler. You could catch him anywhere, and he was just using the mainline pineapple by itself. And he was telling me, and I thought, he's having a beano. So when you put it with the N-butyric, it went up a couple of gears. It was just amazing, and it still will catch more than most to this day.
Yeah, it's one of the best baits I've used in flavour extractor combinations in boilies for sure.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some compound in there that's super attractive to them.
Yeah.
And the other thing to bear in mind, by the way, is black baits are very, very effective indeed. There's very little on the bottom that is black, so black stand out. And don't forget, the carp have never seen it before, so it's considered completely safe.
I remember the old black tigers were a bit in vogue for a while, weren't they?
Yeah.
And but never seemed to sort of.
Well, subconsciously, most anglers have to have a visual aspect to them that's mentally pleasing to themselves. It's like, remember me telling you when the white conked out a bit on the Mere because of overuse, everyone got it in the end. It was like everyone's on white singles blasted out, all manner of concoction flavours and stuff. And then me and Steve Cooks, we were chatting about it, and I said, listen, I'm going to add some blue to the white to make a Man City sort of blue. So it did. Oh, fresh again. Now, who the hell would use a blue bait? Especially a Man City colour.
Oh.
Especially if you're a United fan as well. But it was like an amazing thing. And green was amazing as well.
Yeah.
Green baits have always been good. I think green is one of the best colours for free offerings there is. Yeah,
I can barely remember. We used green once. We used green with peppermint, and
never did much good on peppermint flavour.
Funny.
Spearmint as well. No, nothing.
Yeah.
But I tell you what's interesting is the clove. I use that in a lot of the singles, and clove is a natural painkiller and nerve blocker.
Do you think it's the same?
It's the same as Bonjela.
Yeah.
And some of the more advanced compounds they give you to cure toothache or to numb your mouth have got clove in or relatives of clove. And if you chew bait that's got clove in, your mouth goes completely numb. So you can't feel if you've got anything in your mouth.
Working the same way as a chili and stuff in bait as well.
Yeah, well, chilies irritate the taste buds. So when they irritate our taste buds, we've got 10,200 taste buds. Carp have got more than 100,000, probably about 120,000 taste buds. So they've got 10 times more than us. And when you have chilies, it irritates your taste buds. So your eyes water, your nose runs, and you're almost in pain, but you're loving it because it sets off endorphins in your mind. But it does the same with the carp. So, and the mouths that are inflamed and irritated, they can't always feel the rig in the mouth or the line going across the lips. I'm sure of it because, when we first started messing with chilies, and certainly with the clove, it affects some of the hook holds. When I was using clove, I got some of the hook holds where I had to get a disgorger for an hooking chub to get the rig out the back of the throat. Honestly, it was that far. I couldn't even see the hook baits. And I thought, what's going on here? And it had to have been that. But it acts as a tranquilizer for fish as well. So you can do an operation on a fish when you've got a mixture of clove oil in water. So you can literally repair them, stitch them up, use it for surgery. But you've got to be very careful. You don't want to be using willy-nilly big amounts in food bait that you're going to be putting in if you're using clove. Just a small amount, maybe 10 drops to a kilo of bait is enough, because we don't want them all going for a big sleep.
So Frank, how do you earn a living nowadays? What I know you're associated with some companies.
Yeah, well, I for about 4 or 5 years I've been with Sonik, and which was almost by accident really. Lovely company to work for, very friendly, nice people, nice crowd. I was doing my own rods. Harrison were doing some blanks with us because I've been at Century for about 18 years. And
was that sad to finish at Century? Because I associated you with, seeing.
Well, everybody did. Yeah. I got offered a lot more money to go to other companies than Century, but at the time I was working for 7 or 8 companies and getting a reasonably good income. And I got offered much more money, but I stayed with them out of loyalty. And then when the shoe was on the other foot, they rang me, sent me an email and said, sorry to tell you, this was about 10 years ago, sorry to tell you that we're not paying consultants anymore. So, which I thought was a bit strange because I was their only consultant. So I thought...
So they're saying we're not paying you anymore.
Yeah, so I said, so I put it on Facebook. I just said, I've just resigned from Century. And Simon rang me up, the boss, and he said, Frank, I want you to remove that immediately. It's going to damage Century. So I says, no, I don't think so, mate. It's over. I said, he says, that was a knee-jerk reaction, wasn't it? I says, well, if you don't pay me, I don't work for free. A few rods a year is not going to cut it. I says, it's just not worth it. Everyone associates me with Century. And I says, I'm on social media and I get asked literally hundreds of questions about Century rods. And I said, I've championed them for 18 years, and if that's not good enough, it's not good enough, so best I move on.
How big was your contribution to Century?
Oh, well, I basically, when I joined them, they had the Armalites and some Black Max rods and very little else, and all the logos on the rods were big and garish, and they just weren't very sexy or, current. So I says, we need slimmer rods, change the appearance of them and get them into this sort of Century. And no pun intended. And and then see what we can do. So I did the NG, then the full metal jacket.
I love those rods.
Yeah, did the full metal jacket and had some dealings. Well, I didn't design them. The Fat Boy Slims came out when I was there because we talked about having a lesser... test curve but super slim rod, and then there was I wanted to do carbon throwing sticks way before anyone did them, and they said, it's impossible. I says, it's not impossible. I says, you're making parts for Formula 1 cars because they've got a sister company called Comprex, and they could have easily done it, and it was just like, it was too inconvenient. And I thought, why not be the first? I always like to be the first. Like innovation and that, and it just to do it after everyone else has done it really seems sad. So that was that. So then I was going to do my own rods with. I went to see Steve Harrison, and then I was messing around with blanks and with a view to doing my own rods. And I did the first 4, which my mate Henry Hansen bought, and then I was pulling away from in the winter from. Mallard. I was fishing on Kingfisher at Bluebell, and Martin Ford, who worked for Sonik at the time, pulled me and said, Frank, we're doing a quick film here. He says, would you would you do us a favour? I says, what's that? He says, have a cast of this rod. I says, mate, I don't really want to. I says, I'm not familiar with Sonic gear, but if I've got a knack for blowing rods up. If I blow up the shit out of it, I said, are you going to put it in the film? He says, no, we've had a lot of feedback. He said, I don't think you blow it up. I says, but what if I did? I says, are you putting it in the film? He says, if you do, we'll put it in the film. I says, well, that's different. I says, but I'm doing my own range of rods, and if I start messing with yours and I say they're brilliant, it could cloud the waters for me with my little thing. He says, well, just have a go. And my sense of devilment sort of took over, so give us the bloody rods. So I got it. I thought, oh, this is slim. And it was the Gravity X. So I got the Gravity X, and I thought, oh, this feels really nice, this. Cracked it, and it nearly cleared Mallard. And I thought, shit. And I suddenly made me reassess everything. I thought, oh, my God. And I had a cast with the other test curve rods that they'd got, and they were astonishing. And I thought, oh my God, this is a different league.
Sonics make C rods as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So they were into rods because we associate them as a carp fishing company, but they were making.
No, they've done sea fishing rods for a long time since they virtually first started, and some good ones as well. And not necessarily known for that. They're known for the carp stuff more than anything. And but sea fishing rods are great. A lot of them are designed like Italian style ones, with the small rings on and things for multipliers. They've got some great ones. I took them on the beach up at Morecambe and was amazed how far I could cast with some of those things. And anyway, so what happened was I kind of love those rods, and I said, can I get those blanks to do my own? Because Nick Buss is a mate of mine, a great rod builder. He was building the rods for us. And I thought, I want them blanks, and I want Nick to. So, basically, Ian, who's the boss of Sonic, he said, yeah, we'll give you the blanks, and you can do them customised. He says, but the price differential to get a built rod isn't that great. He says, you might be better just to come to us and join us. And then he says, I know you're full of ideas. He says, any ideas that you've got for stuff we can do in the future, And I quite like the idea of that because, my ideas are going to be limited if it was just a rod company. But when it's a company that does potentially all the luggage and
how would they test a fishing rod? Any rod manufacturer?
Well, funny
because you need someone that can really smack a lead out there.
Well, here's what we do. I'm currently designing my own range of rods with Sonic, which was a fantastic thing because there's very few people that's got a bespoke range of rods with their name on it that they can truly say are theirs. And Sonic have certainly never done that before. And I think they thought about it long and hard and thought, do you know what? Because I've been like an ambassador for their range. And I really do like the rods are great. And even the 50 quidders that they had, I was testing them out and at the Carp in the Park and virtually cleared the lake there with a 2 3/4, I think it was. It's 50 quid. And they did the film of it went viral. It was just a spur of the moment thing, and they sold about 8,000 rods off that. Anyway, they've decided that I could design the new rods, and basically they've got a guy that translates what you want. That's worked for some of the big companies. He goes over and speaks to the manufacturers, comes back with the rods that are made up, but not as you would have them with the handles and everything that you want. Just the basic blanks been made for you to usable to cast. And I went on Rugged Lake, and I took the best rod that I've used previously was the Gravity X. The Gravity XT is a good rod, but the Gravity X was my favourite as a best all-round rod, not only for super long distance casting, but for a usable, great tool for every. Because I like a decathlete of a rod rather than a long range rod that's crap for everything else. I want something that's just your favourite tool, so you're not having to swap the reels all the time and mess around. I want something that does everything, and that's the one. So it had to be something that was comparable to that or better. And they brought out the XT, which was perfectly good, parallel, but not everyone's cup of tea. But hell of a casting rod. The 13s in that were just ridiculous, mental. So very good in that respect, but that was my personal favourite. So they sent some new prototypes. So I went on there, used the same reel for every test, and braided a 50-pound leader. Cracked it out with the new prototype. Tightened the line down, put it in the clip, wound it back in, but did several casts, and then, each time, the furthest cast I could do, absolutely giving it everything, put it in the clip, took the reel off, put it on the Gravity X, and the Gravity X slammed the clip first go. So that blank was definitely not good enough. And I knew it, because it was tip heavy. It was 7 inches further forward than the Gravity X to get the balancing point, because the tip was so heavy. So I thought, not for me. They were disappointed, because that was a cost-effective rod, let's put it that way, that would have made more profit. So me being a contrary bastard, I went through several rods and saying, no. I said, I'd rather not do this project unless we get the right one. And we got one. And when I got the Gravity X and was hitting it as far as I could, I got the new prototype, put it on, and it was hitting the clip. So, with quite a lot of force. So I thought, this is a casting tool, and it's super slim and it's beautiful. And I thought, and then I've been using it for fishing, some of the time, not all the time, and then switching back and seeing if I'm getting more fun and feel using the new.
It's funny with you, because you would have said, because you are a big caster, you'd associate you using big heavy rods and stuff all the time. And
well, I tend to use 3.5s, and a lot of people prefer 13s for long range casting. They're better, because you're creating a bigger arc. But I use 12s a lot, because a lot of swims that are fishing are enclosed and tight. I'm not one for using these short rods that have become popular at the moment. I just think you're under guns sometimes. I know they're all great when you do the hanging on the rod tip in a show. And you go, oh, look at that. But sooner or later you want that leverage of a long rod so that you can,
It's a funny compromise, isn't it, between a 12 and a 13-foot rod, because you can try the same model of rod out in a 12-foot, and it's so much more stiffer, which in some respects is... I would like that more for the casting, but then you've got the compromise with the extra length of the rod as well.
Well, a lot of the rods that you see, by the way, that are off the shelf, the handles are too low down.
Yeah.
You're looking at them, and
you're literally...
You
need more leverage, don't you?
Yeah, you need to get your hands apart. So you need 22, 23 inches to the reel seat. Yeah. A lot of them are 19 or 18 inches.
I know, 19 is... it's way too short.
Yeah. It's more like for someone with the shortest arms in the world.
Yeah. Your casting technique is different, isn't it, to the standard? Where did you get all that from?
Oh, well, when I was a kid, we used to go to Torquay for our holidays. Every year it seemed to be the same case. And my mum and dad would basically be doing their thing out on the Raz. And... or sightseeing, wanting to go to places like Cockington or bloody Brixham and all that. So they dropped me off at Hope's Nose, which was a famous sea fishing peninsula. And on one side it was mackerel and bass, the sea was all turquoise, and on the other, main sewer from Torquay was there. And I didn't know, it was only 10, or maybe less. And it probably was less, come to think of it, sort of 9. So on that side, you could catch wrasse and mullet and sometimes black bream. And basically all the shite from the whole of Torquay was coming out of it. And I remember fishing for the mullet, and I didn't know what they were at the time, but I was getting the old Johnnies stuck on the hook and getting toilet roll on the shots, but I was having some big mullet. So, they just leave me down there. And then when I wanted to fish for the mackerel, there was guys with beach casters all giving it some. I thought, they've got all the top gear and all the rest of it. And I had a Mitchell 300 and an old sort of glass carp rod. So these boys are outdistancing me and that and taking the piss, because I've just got light carp gear. So I thought, And I was watching the way they were casting and that, and I thought, there's nothing special about that. A lot of them were coming from the side, like sea anglers tend to do. So I kind of picked it up doing that. And then before I knew it, I was out distancing a lot of the guys that had beach casters and stuff. There were a lot of them were holiday makers that were probably crap anyhow, you know, but I remember them quite a few times being pissed off that I was fishing so far out, using basically, you know, light carp gear. And it kind of stuck. And then when I come to fishing some of the carp waters, I realised that style had kind of stuck. I mean, I can cast overhead and all the rest of it, but if I need to absolutely use a bigger drop, I can get away with like a 10-foot drop if I've got the room to come from the side. And because that massive arc you're creating, a lot of people say, is it accurate?
Yeah.
Well, I use my feet almost like you do when you're playing golf.
Yeah.
So I know, I've done it that many thousands of times, I know where it's going to land, and I'm very accurate with it.
It reminds me of golf. If you watch any golfers, professional golfers, they will always they stiffen up the left. You stiffen up the left leg, so you really do sort of turn into that left leg.
It's like
it can cause you a few injuries.
Yes,
Tiger Woods in there. I mean, because you are putting so. Yeah. But that's exactly what you're doing with that casting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's like a boxer. When you're doing the big punches, the concussive punches, you use your hips and your legs. So so it's most of your force comes from down below and then goes through your core. So it follows that if you to get the maximum power, you would use your legs a lot and your hips, and that's what I do. And one of the things, by the way, when I'm teaching people to cast,
I like this,
is I make them sit in a chair, and they say, "Why do I have to sit in a chair?" If they've got no timing, because a lot of people, they're lazy with their arms. It's almost like a wet lettuce. They're like, you think, get some snap in it. Come on, wake up. It's almost like, punching like that instead of, meaning it. Come on, push and pull. So I'll sit them in the chair. And a lot of people have too short a drop. The shorter the drop, the easier it is for your timing. But when you get more power, the long drop, but your timing's more critical. So what I do is I make them sit in the chair and I make them swing the lead till it's pulling on the finger and with a longer drop. And then it gets push and pull. So it's this arm as much as this, so they're thumping it out. Before you know it, their timing's improved dramatically. Then I change the position where they're holding the line, because a lot of them hold the line wrong, 3 and 1, and when that finger's off, you're not holding the rod properly for a proper grip, and the line has to, all your timing's out because of the acute angle that the line's tucking in, it tends to go on that part of your finger, and to get the timing right from halfway down your finger is massive, whereas if it's in the first joint, it's dead quick and easy to do.
I remember you writing an article about that. So So I'm usually cast. Is it that
you need a rod and reel to do it really, but
so you're using that.
Well, what I do is, let's see.
We'll put a picture up, Frank. Actually,
yeah. I mean, it's easier to show with a rod and reel.
But when you see it does make sense. Do you know what? I think I might have started using that and then just reverted back to what I was doing before. That's what you do,
because
isn't it?
I do it so that I use 1 down below and 2, 3 on top, and then it's pulling it straight from the reel at that right angle. Whereas some people, once this finger's out of commission, they've left themselves with not a good enough grip, if you know what I mean, and the timing issue because it goes too far down your finger, the line, because it's being pulled down instead of across.
Do you see that, the way we're taught? I mean, Terry Edmonds is a fantastic caster. I've had lessons with him, and I mean, his movement is so athletic. He's
a powerhouse, Terry. He's an amazing caster, yeah.
But do you think there can be too much lower body movement in your in the casting? When you're trying to step, you're kind of... You notice with the bigger the person as well, generally speaking, because you've got something to actually pull against.
I think if you're a lighter person of a lighter build, your legs are super important. I think it can there be too much movement? They can if you're doing one of them walks, so you look like Basil Fawlty doing the Ministry of Funny Walks, where you're doing... I've seen some people do that big step and it's sort of not even in timing with what you're doing.
It gets misunderstood what they're trying to do there, doesn't it?
Yes, I think that needs to be ironed out. Terry should make a series of videos of how to not to do it and how to do it. That because I think a lot of people are thinking that they're not knowing why that helps or how you should do it. And exactly the timing aspects of it. So I think Terry or Mark Hutchinson or both of them should do that.
Just when people understand why they're actually doing something, rather than seeing it and just doing it, it's understanding it, isn't it? And,
you see, I don't necessarily step into an overhead cast. I can do it with my legs virtually stood still because I'm getting enough. Basically, I suppose the way to put it is. Sheer power into punching and pulling, I get that snap. It makes a different sound. With a good caster, it always makes a different sound of the cast. It's like, it's quick and not so loud, and so I don't have to step into it. But when I mean, my particular style's coming from the side, But whenever I've taught someone and they stand up after I've got them to sit down to get the timing right, the difference is ridiculous. Then they can we work on the legs then, So it's like, let's get the top half sorted, the bit that's sort of sloppy, and then we can really get the power going with the legs. And that works for me and for them. I've had some amazing successes with that. Yeah.
As well as the rods, you're working for a boilie company now as well, and
I had a few disasters, let's put it that way. I tried doing a bait company some years ago. Initially it was good. I had a partner that was really wealthy. He owned 460 houses, and he was just a friend, nothing to do with fishing. He just said, what do you want? 300, 400 grand? Just give it, you do it. Because I wasn't that enamoured with the company that I was at the time. Felt like they were not sympathetic to what I wanted to, the direction I wanted to go with baits with my name on. And I ended up walking away from the bait company, and it didn't last. I wasn't happy there because my partner sold out to two people that I just didn't gel with. It didn't work. Didn't have the same sort of ethos as I did. So, I wish them well, but it didn't work. So then I moved to another company based further down in London, and that was probably a knee-jerk reaction, really, based more on needing an income than actually having the right setup for what I needed. It was like a one-way street, really. I felt like I'd given quite a few ideas over and bits and pieces, so it wasn't working for me, and I couldn't see it going anywhere in the future. So Henrik, a mutual friend of ours, introduced us to Nicky Heading, and Nicky's a Scandinavian from Denmark. He's very much a big fish angler, and he's fished rainbow a lot, and he had the Scarface common first time on there. 83, I think it was, in the winter, and a load of other fish. He's fished lots of different places. Very modest guy. Doesn't blow his own trumpet very much. And I met him, and he was a typical Scandinavian, good thinker, very technical. And bizarrely enough, he's got a bait company that's based in Spain. And it's in Benidorm, of all places. And it shocked me when I went over. I flew over and went to see them and his wife Marlena, and it was a big old place. It's a bit like Korda when I came here. I was shocked at the size of it. And Nicky and his wife work together. They don't have a load of staff. And he works crazy hours with Marlena, and he's the biggest bait company in Spain. But they decided to change the life from living in Denmark. Nicky's background is a lot of his family to do with the fish manufacturing or plants. So they were, using a lot of krill and fish hydroslates and things, and all the LT94, and some other products that I actually wasn't familiar with. A few things that he can get, and his baits were a little bit. I didn't know what to think when I first seen them. I thought, different. I couldn't put my finger on some of the smells of some of them, so I thought, well, let's just try them, and I've done with it. And I have to say, it's easy to say this. I suppose everybody would say it. You're not going to go on there and say, "Oh, the baits are average," but I've been a little bit shocked because I kind of thought that Nicky being a Scandinavian, it could be interesting because I know Henrik, he does his own baits. He's or has done for years, and he gets all the best of the best from Sea Garden, the place that used to produce the L030. He's got the original still that they used to make every bit of L030 that's ever been made. He's got it in his garage. So he's got a special relationship with them. He does work for them, and they give him products in return, so he can have anything in the bait. Well, he works with me, with Nicky, so we do research together and, trial and error and messing with things. And Nicky's got that same unusual approach in that he doesn't use all the normal things that you might use in a fish meal, for example. There's some stuff in there that really did surprise me. Anyway, I've tried the baits and had some really good fish on it. And so far this year, I've had on that syndicate, I've had I think it's 11 now from not many trips, and I've had one blank since I've been on that bait.
That's a good sign.
Well, I think that's great.
Yeah,
because I couldn't say that in the past. I used to have blanks, not, it was like 50-50 almost at times, depending on where I was fishing, busy circuit waters and that. But yeah, I'm quite chuffed with it. So I think
you like to be. I mean, the good thing with you, I guess, is that you're innovative in different. You don't necessarily specialise in one type of carp angling. You've got the casting, you've got the bait stuff, and you've got the rig. So you've got all your bases kind of covered, haven't you?
Yeah. I think it's so important. I've seen people. I've seen it before. They spend a fortune on the gear, and then compromise on the bait. And you think, a lot of them don't even make their own hook baits. And I think that's sacrilege. I think a lot of the younger guys out there in particular, they're missing such a beautiful part of carp fishing. Because to me, one of the biggest thrills of all is making your own hook baits at least. And making your own concoction that's unique. And being, whoa, that smells fabulous, or it tastes fabulous, or whatever. Going out and catching fish on your own thinking. Because at the end of the day, you're just reading what's on the label of other people's bait, and you don't actually know what's in there. So, and if something happens to that bait company, you've got your old favourite, you're down the river, your favourite's gone and all that. But if you make it yourself, it's always there. So I think most people should stop being so lazy. By all means, use other people's baits as a comparison to see if yours are any good as a test controller. But if you make one that's blowing off all the so-called super-duper baits from bait companies, happy days, isn't it? And it's unique. You've got your own thing, so I think it's super important, that.
I think it's a relevant point there, that modern carp fishing now, it's when we, especially 40 years ago, I mean, you had to do your own thing. You were creating everything. Everybody pretty much had to think for themselves. But now carp fishing's different because it's appealing to people that maybe would go camping or do so. They're not necessarily natural anglers nowadays. They
especially after this lockdown, there's all these people took it up again, isn't there?
You've heard, haven't you?
Yeah, tons of
and
people.
I mean, carp fishing is so convenient for that, isn't it? Because you can combine. You don't need to be serious.
You're getting your outdoors fresh air. Yeah, you're camping. You're relaxing. You're getting a multiple hit off it, aren't you, really?
But what you're getting as well is we're moving away from the origins of how carp fishing started, but it's just natural.
Yeah, but I think if it feels good and you're happy with what you're doing, that's good enough.
It's good enough.
I think that's good enough. I think you don't have to all be a sort of guru expert or anything. That's why the bait companies and the tackle companies like this have took off and exploded, isn't it? Because the old days when we used to make all our own stuff and that, it was fun, but it was also a ball ache. I mean, you go in the tackle shops now and you want for nothing, do you? Or online you can get it the following day and it's there. It's great.
It was fun creating something for yourself. I mean, it's totally different nowadays. But so you were saying with with the bait and stuff. So
I work for Vital Baits. And by the way, we're doing my own range of new baits with Vital. We're testing one at the minute. It's really exciting. It's called Mojo.
Mojo.
I thought of the name, I'm getting your mojo back. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Well, hopefully it works for a few anglers.
with Nikki and Marlena living in Spain, Marlena said, I'm not sure about that name. She says, I don't like mojitos. I said, it's nothing to do with a mojito cocktail. Which I thought was funny. But yeah, it's great. And I work for Enterprise, which I've been with for way over 20 years.
I always thought that you were Enterprise, actually.
Loads of people, all the Russians and all that, think Mr. Enterprise. And I think that's because they've got my mugshot on a lot of the packaging. Do you know what started all that? Shall I be honest with you? I did the very first World Carp Classic. I think it was the first one. And Chris from Enterprise was new then. And his first ever product was plastic sweet corn. And what happened was, every competitor got a free packet of corn. And at the end of the prize giving, everyone was drinking everything. The floor was just littered with leaflets, brochures, and probably 200 packets of sweet corn where people had gone, that'll never catch, and just flung it on the floor. I kind of understood that, but my sea fishing background and, knowing that if you put fluorescent beads on the rig when you're fishing over the wrecks with a black red gill sand eel, the silhouette, they'd have it, and the bright beads. So plastic baits were nothing to me. It was like, that'll work over a bed of food, real food, no problem. And by itself. Because I know carp have to suck it in. They've not got hands to go, that's bloody rubber, plastic. No, they have to suck it in to find out that's your bite. So they don't suck it in safe mode. Anything they suck in with a hook attached is potentially a problem, obviously. So stating the obvious, but a lot of people sort of think, they'd only suck it in once. No, they suck it in repeatedly. Anyway, so I picked them all up, started using them and catching a lot of fish on them. I thought, shit, this is the answer to my problems, because I was using 2 pieces of American plate maize with a piece of foam in between it prior to that. And what you'd have is it'd sit up to start with if you're on a layer of weed or something, or thick silt, but it'd take in water and silt would get into the foam and it'd end up just a wafter or like smelling of the bottom. Yet the corn, perfect. Always the same buoyancy, always the same visual aspect to it, because it didn't taint very easy, and reusable, easy. So then I thought, Chris could do with having the pineapple and M-butyric in this. He wanted to do a tutti frutti because he liked that from his fishing for the tench and other things. So we did those. Yeah, worked. So there's been a controversy. Some people say that the unflavoured plastics work better. Yeah, I really disagree with that. Right. Of course, they will work because they're a decoy. And every fish likes corn, all the cyprinids. But the thing is, I remember loads of situations where I'm getting plenty of bites on the flavoured when it's fresh. When it's been in there, whether the bag's been done, if you're using it with a bag and it's been triggered and it's like, nope, it could be that. But what I found was that if I didn't refresh it and put a fresh piece or 2 pieces on that were freshly flavoured, slow. On the timer, on the clocks. Back to the clocks. So what I'm saying, that's a point we never actually finished on, on the clocks. And that's an important thing, that. It really is so important. I mean, if everyone started keeping records of the best time, the optimum time for doing a recast, what's a better thing to learn? I know it can change, but generally speaking, if you find it down, and you find that redoing the rods every hour is the one, what's not to like about that? Rather than leave them out for 12 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
You're 11 hours out. So to me, that's one of the, when you sat there on your reading your magazines or on your PlayStation or whatever you're doing in your bivvy, you might be surfing brazzers. I don't know, but I'd rather be timing the rods and making notes on every given water. I mean, rainbow, even though that's traditionally, put them in Saturday and you're looking for a bite on Wednesday, certainly in the winter. That might be a question of needing clocks that work in days. But it's still relevant because you don't know.
How many times are they? I mean, you're telling me that it takes 5 days to get picked up at Rainbow Lake. I mean,
well, not when they're having it, obviously, but in the winter it can be awfully slow. I remember Lockie saying, expect your first bite on Wednesday, because he's fished it loads.
But do you not think it's being investigated and picked up?
Of course it is.
It must be, mustn't it?
Well, no. So you mean everything up until from Saturday to Wednesday's managed to get away with it, and then Wednesday it's April Fool's Day? Nah. I think they're clocking it, and they're that used to seeing so many traps in there, they're probably thinking, he's got to have got pissed off now, wound it in. Because they must thrive on old bait that's weathered, where they're thinking, it's got to be safe now because we've looked at it for days and days, and pissed about. Oh, I'm having it, and that's bang, that's your bite. I think that's what's happening, but that's quite unique. I think I've tried it, by the way, in England. I tried it on Kingfisher and everything. I've gone from one extreme to the other. And I thought, right, I'm going to put them out, and they are staying till I pack up or I get a bite. And how many people's done that in the UK? Not many.
But I mean, once you get that first bite as well, it for a lot of people, it makes them more active then because they recast the rod and then they put bait out. So then they're creating something.
That's it. That's a catalyst. It's a catalyst for more activity.
Yeah.
And then you think, right, I'm getting busy now, because it kind of sucks you into inactivity. Sometimes you think, oh, they're not in my swim, but they probably are, because most areas where there's been no line, especially if you're going in a swim where there's been no one in preceding you, it's usually there's something present, you know. And I mean, of course, you can do the bait and wait technique, which I hate. I hate it. That has never been kind to me doing that. I think we used to call it on Reedsmere, doing the rounds, get up every tree and walk around the lake till you see some and then fish. And the speed it happened was incredible. Everybody knows that. You know, look at Darryl Peck. Often he just spends a lot of time looking. Dave Lane. A lot of emphasis on finding the fish. And then the rest is easy. It's like going in a nightclub where there's no birds, expecting to pull one. It's not going to happen, is it?
I guess on the only time that's probably more effective is on a big water where the fish just aren't visiting the areas as regularly in the first place.
Well, I think not always necessarily big water. I think it can even be on any water. I think. I mean, we just went down a place in Devon, Dave Lidston's Emperor Lakes, as a guest, and you know, there was, if you're getting the right swim on there, there's a Dave swim that owns the lake, and he's been away in France for 3 or 4 months, so he's not been there, and so there's been no pressure from him, and the fish have naturally managed to get in there, and it was obvious that if you're going to get bites, it was fishing into the mouth of that, whereas if we had fish around the lake, but they were in a different mode. They weren't in that chilled out mode where they feel safe. They were obviously edgy. I think that's one of them places where you could, if you found them and did it right with a little bit of bait, could be good. But I think if you'd have to spend a bit of time to be lucky for them to come on you, and with a lot of bait in and do it. You know.
Talking of baiting as well, you were the method feeder and using ground bait and yeast. I was asking you earlier about what am I going to put in particle, and you said yeast and this fermenting process.
Yeah, well, what I was doing was I decided to. A lot of people use the method infrequently, certainly carp anglers.
Do you see it's died away a little bit recently? I mean, you just don't see it anymore, do you?
It's incredible. If you go to Italy, to Parco della Brenta, where I take groups fishing 3 or 4 times a year, the go-to easiest method to catch fish is to use a feeder, a method feeder. And you don't have to be even technical and spomming over the top, just a method feeder about the size of a tennis ball. And interestingly enough, you use a hook length about 4 inches, bury the the rig inside it with just the hook bait stuck to the side on the bias, so it sits on top of the ball. I've had the fish on the drop with a ball this big in 22 feet of water, and my line started paying out. I thought, I'll foul up one. And it's got the whole ball in its mouth. So they're crazy for it. And that's with the pellet that they sell at the lake.
That's
which
crazy.
Is Veronese pellet made in Italy. It's
right.
Really good pellet. If ever you go to Parco, bring some pellet back to England, because it's incredible. It's incredible. Beautiful pellet.
Why is it better?
I'll say it's better. It's just that, well, I'd say it's excellent. It's bespoke made there, and it's a company that specialises in certain technology, and I think they've done something a little bit different. And Antonio buys 50 ton of it a year or whatever, and he gives you that when you go on the packages and things, and it's the staple diet of the fish. And oh my God,
is it evident when you first start using it, or is it just through the results?
Well, if you take a pellet that the fish are not used to, it's much slower. But that's like a natural food to them, so it's like bang, that predatory.
But you've noticed it good on other waters as well.
Well, my mate Pete Olaus brought some back. I said, Pete, we need to get this back to England, and he had a spare suitcase, so he threw all his spare stuff away and brought 25 kilo back in a suitcase, and catching like buggery on the through the winter on it as well.
Right. So your method mix is then a major. You are incorporating pellet and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I had that spell where I was fishing in Shropshire on that Rob Ailes's water. That God, I've got a Acton Burnell, yeah. See what I mean about this stroke? It's left me forgetting names like that.
We've been talking for a while, Frank.
I know, it's crazy. Anyway, I went on there, and Rob says to me, "Oh yeah, what you want to do in here is just put a couple of markers out, put 10 kilo boilers out between it." And I thought, that's the last thing I want to do. So I've been using the method a lot, just with the fermented smelly maize as the hook bait. I discovered that in America when I went to America, and met some Americans, and they were telling me how they ferment the maize, and they put a load of sugar in and a little bit of salt to stop some of the bad bacteria building up, but yeast will tolerate. It's triggered by sugars, and it'll tolerate salt in a reasonable amount, but not too much.
What type of salt do you use?
Well, I use the Himalayan rock salt. Now, I wasn't then.
It was pretty hard to get hold of, wasn't it, for a long time?
Yeah, it wasn't the vogue thing either. I just used to use just normal salt, if I'm honest. I'm not going to lie.
What, table salt?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to. I mean, I know a lot of people consider it crap, but it's still salt, and it worked. So I was using that in the early days, and then I was putting a lot of sugar in, like 4 pounds of sugar in a big, like, chemical barrel I used, and put the maize in, boil it so it gets the starches out, and then I was spitting in it as well. I don't know if you know about that.
No,
you got enzymes and stuff in your spit. They used to do it in the beer brewing process. They used to spit in the beer to get the fermentation going.
How much spit?
Yeah.
What, a lot of spit?
Just scobbing it. And it starts.
That just finishes it off.
I know it's not a nice thought,
right?
But it you've got lots of bits and pieces in there of bacteria and that, and it just kicks it all off. So what you got was I put the yeast in. Once I'd boiled it up and saved the water. By the way, the water's important. And then I was adding brewer's yeast to it, because I was putting it in with the water. You know what? Baking yeast is different, slightly different. Similar sort of bacteria, but the other's more for a waterborne process. Right. And so I was putting that in with the actual maize, right? So that was kicking off the fermentation. And then I was using baker's yeast in the method mix. So I was using brewer's yeast with the maize, and sugar with a little bit of salt. And then when you do the method, I was using lots of tuna, tins of tuna with the sunflower oil. I always found that better. It sort of lingered, the smell of it. The other with water in never did it for me. And I was using Activate pellets. They were brilliant pellets, actually. With that Activate smell, the mainline ones were really good. credit where credit's due. And I was with Mainline at the time, and that was the boilie that was going in the lake, but I wanted the smell of that, but not in a boilie form, not the predictable round balls. So I was using that, and I was using that meaty marine ground bait of Dynamites, which was the best thing they ever did, in my opinion, of the general stuff. I mean, they stopped doing it for a while, which was crazy. I was using liquid liver, and I was using pigeon and conditioner, just a small amount so it didn't split the ball. Nectar blend and red factor from Hapes, which is birdseed, which helps to spit the method apart. I was using ground hemp. So
you've got a very active bait there, haven't you? There's so many different elements.
Yes, this is the key to it. I wanted it all to break down quickly on the feeder and spit, because if it's too neat, it's like a PVA bag, and it's not the same effect. So I made it so it was literally active and blowing off. I do the same when I'm using bags, by the way. I want it. It's another story, that, but if everyone's casting a bag out, it looks too neat. It's too contrived, and the fish can spook off it. I've seen them flash off it.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Whereas if you do it, and it looks like other fish has been in and spat it everywhere, and it's all like boom, they like it. They think, well, it's been triggered, or it's safe, or whatever. I don't know, but the difference is remarkable.
And you were casting that method
single
mix.
balls,
single ball. What, at showing fish,
fizzers, anything like that. And but I tried putting freebies around one of the rods, because I did a different thing. I spommed over one, freebies with a whopper dropper over the other, and single ball on the other. And the single ball just completely annihilated the others. It was too much food on the others.
Is that single ball just enough, do you think, for one fish, or can that get a few fish?
Oh, no,
going?
no, it's just for one bite.
It's literally one bite.
But they were big, and when I weighed them, they were 12 ounces.
I've seen the pictures of them.
They were
12, They're huge.
12 ounces. They were like an elephant's neck.
Testicle.
They were huge. And I never realised they were 12 ounces. And he doesn't allow shock leaders.
Doesn't he? Right.
So I had £20 line on that GR60, the 20 that rakes at about £30, you know.
What sort of rods were you using with that?
The NGs.
Oh my God.
Them 3.5s. Yeah.
They weren't exactly, they were a through action rod as well, weren't they?
I used to be testing them to the limits. But it shows what a tough little rod they were, you know.
Yeah.
So it was good.
And a bite's quite instant with that as well.
Mate, no, sometimes it'd be half an hour or an hour.
That's quite quick, though.
But the longest you would wait normally would be 5 or 6 hours.
And you were casting those regularly?
Oh, mate, I was going through 20 kilo. Ailsey banned everything in the end because he said you're putting my fish under massive pressure. He said you're catching too many. He says I'm banning the method, and I'm banning this, and I'm banning that. And I thought I might as well drop out then, you know. So.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, man. But what happened was I had a 37 within 2 hours, a couple of mid-20s. Then I had a £40 9. And it just went on. And every time I went down, it was like a question of how many. It didn't matter which swim I got as long as it was on fish. I had to have a look for the fish first. And interestingly enough, when I tried putting the hook length on a supple hook length in the ball, like you would on a match type setup, them big fish in there just wouldn't tolerate it. You couldn't get a bite. Nope, you couldn't. And I thought, why can't I get a bite? You'd think they're attacking the ball, but because of what I was putting in the ball, it was breaking down quickly. So they didn't have to attack the ball, but the hook length was too short for them to hang themselves. I got aborted takes on it, and maybe the occasional fish. But it was an hook length about 12 inches, maybe 10. Coated hook length for the last inch strips, with balanced maize, so it'd fall away. And I put 2 pieces of dissolving foam on so that it'd break down like it's about the size of a saucer, and that was tantalisingly on the edge of it.
Well, you're kind of doing what you were talking about with baiting in the first place, where you're actually fishing that way.
So I reckon, because of the speed I was getting the bites, they were having the maize on the edge, on the outer edge, by about 4 or 5 inches. They were like, I'm not having that, I'm having that, and then bam, that was it.
That's the best way of getting a quick bite, isn't it? It's isolating it.
Yeah, but in Italy, bizarrely enough, I went on there using the method with the long hook length because they're big fish. I thought, must be the same trick for these. Oh, no, it wasn't. So I thought, what's going on here then? It was slow. And I thought, I caught big fish, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as sort of stand out. Speaking to Nicholas Holzer, He's fished there for 13 years. He come around and says, Frank, no, too long. 4 inches, the width of the palm of your hand, size 8 hook, like a crank, Korda crank. A little match the hatch sort of wafter barrel, same colour as the pellet. Folding it and put it on the bias on the lighter fin, and basically tucked all in. Bam!
Was it
10-1 difference? So it just shows the fish they're reacting to the pellet that they're fed on all the time differently. So they're on it. They're attacking the feeder. Whereas the English fish, they were pressured in a different way. They're more circumspect and were trying to be clever, picking the piece off the outer edge.
I know that, and another reason to maybe fish different hook lengths in the first place, because to ascertain that, because you can't assume.
Exactly. So, Simon, you've answered your own question. Before, you said you tend to use the same thing on every rod. Now I'm getting to the point that's why you can't take anything for granted. And on different waters, one doesn't fit all. You know what I mean? One size doesn't fit all. So you might think, because you bear in mind, the fishing parko, that's their entire planet. They're probably sat in there thinking, they're probably having discussions thinking, is there anyone out there? Is there anyone in any other universe? Are we the only ones out there? We're not getting any signals back. And then the fishing reedsmen are probably thinking, we've never had any signals from any other lake. We're the only... So it's a bit daft like that, but they don't know. They ain't got the same history as some other fish, maybe, with the progression of stuff that's gone through their water as their water. So they're in their own little universe. I mean, they fish, so they've got basic habits that they say, but it's amazing to see how they vary. So if you don't go in with different things to do the comparisons, you're kind of missing a very strong... It's like trying to diagnose what's wrong with your engine. If it's a fault with it, you're not going to go, it's the timing belt every time, or the alternator. It could be anything. The same is what they like. You can't guess. It's like they might like tiger nuts in this place more than any boilie, which is quite often the case, actually. Tiger nuts are very underused as a go-to, especially in England, and where they're allowed. But that's another story. But if you're doing them experiments, and it's not all basic as colour of fluoro. I mean, that's boring. It's like making big changes. So you might have a method on one, zig on the other. A lot of people use zigs near the surface, and not many mess with them, like you were saying before, a couple of feet off the bottom. So that needs to be experimented with more, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll bear that in mind.
Yeah.
You said earlier, just changing the subject a little bit, about we can do too much carp fishing and we can get so sidetracked with it. And your sort of remedy to that is fishing overseas now.
Yeah.
So you look at fishing overseas now as your break a little bit from actually going carp fishing to a certain degree.
Yeah. Well, I when we go, I tend to pick very carefully the company I go with. That's the most important thing. The venue's super important as well, but who you travel with is of massive importance, So when I do these trips, everyone's hand-picked, because there's so many that want to go. So I choose, so everybody has a great experience, and we've all become friends, It's like a big extended group of pals. And it's not only the fishing to anticipate, it's just the camaraderie and everything, It's just really nice. And I think that's the whole essence of it as well. And a lot of people have not been to Italy, for example, or, Croatia, places like that. And it's a different world, the fishing's so good. You can have a bad trip and have a fish of a lifetime, several fish of a lifetime, and what you would consider a poor trip by normal standards if you went to, say, France or something. But,
But so with some people, because some people, we say, you have a different hobby as well as fishing. But for you, just being able to go overseas and do that's like having an alternate hobby.
Oh, well, mate, listen, I do other things besides fishing. When I go, I'm into treasure hunting. I know it sounds a bit daft, but it's interesting. And I also collect fossils. and not ex-girlfriends, by the way. And so what I do is I found dinosaur eggs. Found one of them in Elstow.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I've got 3 of them at home. And they're proper dinosaur eggs, just by looking, observing.
Would a museum
strata.
or somewhere like, they would probably like those, wouldn't they? Dinosaur eggs. What sort of dinosaurs do you think?
Well, these were probably small raptors, probably small lizards, less than 3 feet. They're all similar, like a 24 miller, but they're elliptical shape. And I've got parts of iguanodon, which was a big plant-eating lizard that lived at the same time as a T-Rex.
God, we're going back a few years, aren't we?
Yeah.
What about this one, Frank? I've just put on TV.
Aha, that's.
Where did you get that from?
I was fishing on.
I'm well prepared.
I was doing the World Carp Classic on Medine, and I was on the island, and there's an island in the middle of the lake which never gets fished normally. It's out of bounds, and the only time it sees any people on there is farmers that take the sheep over on a barge. So I was pegged up on the island on a windward bank where the wind had been hacking in there. It was a westerlies, prevailing westerlies over there, and the level was down, so it exposed loads of strata that had never seen the light of day for probably a long, long time. And I started beach combing because it was quiet. The fishing was crap. I started finding dinosaur fossils. I mean, lots of them. Incredible amount. I mean, a paleontologist would have gone crazy there. Let's put it that way. And a lot of the lads didn't know what they were looking at because they're not used to collecting fossils. And I spotted them and I thought, oh my God. I needed all my tools and I didn't have them because you don't go fishing in the World Carp Classic with hammers and chisels and all
No,
this
really.
stuff.
No.
And some of them were in stuff that was almost like granite, where you see them and they're chipping away for days. They were set. And I thought, shit, there's some amazing stuff. So I was looking through all these bones. I got a load of. Ross Honey came round with a TV crew to do an interview, and he goes, "What's all this rubbish you've got here?" I said, "They were fossils. Them are prehistoric fossils." So I was showing him. He went, "Oh my God, so they are." Anyway, they're in my house at the moment, and this was one that I found there. This is bizarre because the fossils were from the Jurassic period and Triassic period. And this is obviously a tool that was in the same area. And I don't know why it was in the same area as the fossils, but this has been used by probably ancient man, like maybe even Neanderthals. And it's been used as a tool for smashing open bones. And it was rock hard, like limestone. So you can see where humans...
You can see it. You can see it on there.
I put my fingers near it so you can see how it all... And on the other side, there's a thumb mark where you would hold it with your thumb. And it was funny enough for right-handed people. So mostly 6 to 1. One person every 6 is left-handed. So the other 5, probably this would have been comfy for them.
Yeah, they had bigger hands by the looks of it then, did they? Longer fingers.
No, I don't think so. It was just that's probably been used for literally hundreds of years to make those marks so pronounced. And it didn't occur naturally because they were so obvious. And I took it to the museum in Manchester, and they went crazy about it and said, it's a very significant find. This we've got very few tools, and they wanted to cut it open and carbon date it to see. But the stone would be a different date from the finger marks, but they wanted to see where that stone had originated, because they can tell by the makeup of the crystals in the stone and the quartz and everything, which part of the world it's come from. So they wanted to see where it had travelled from, whether it had come across the Alps or from elsewhere, because that might not be an indigenous stone to that region.
That could have come from anywhere.
Yeah. So, it opens up a...
What about, so that site now then? I mean, is it still sort of undiscovered?
It's all still sat there.
Really?
Yeah, so if ever you go on Medine and you get a boat out, it's all still sat on the shore.
God, you just need to know what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You fished shanty a little bit as well, Frank, didn't you? And you were doing regular trips out there at one point.
Yeah, I started, I think, let me think when it was. I think it was 1990. Just after Alan Taylor and Joe Taylor sort of discovered it, really, as far as the English was concerned. And, what a place that was. It was incredible. It was, Well, they stocked it with 4 million carp a year. Not all of them grew to any size. A lot of them would have been eaten by.
When were they stocked? I mean, with France, I mean, it's true, isn't it, that there's so many fish in Europe due to the wars and stocking waters for
food.
For food.
Yes, it's true. That very true. Yeah, all the public waters were stocked with fish as a food source for the people during the war. Both wars, not just the second.
Hence the reason why there's so many fish in those waters.
Yeah, and I mean they make me jealous actually. The way they seed every water with carp, a good strain of carp.
Why didn't we prepare the same way then?
I don't know. Can you imagine if Ullswater and Coniston and all that had loads of big strain of carp in there? Like some of those Croatian strain type fish. Jesus Christ, it'd be amazing. Instead of everyone driving down south, they'd be driving up to the lakes. I'd love that. And the Scottish lochs, imagine that full of whackers.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And I think it should.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the trout thing and the indigenous fish, but it's just tough. I'd rather have them full of whackers.
Yeah.
The old fluff chuckers can still get out there and mess about, can't they? They've got all the streams and the rivers.
We had a bit of catching up to do, really, didn't we, when you think about that? Compared to European countries. But so Shanti in particular, then, just because Alan, that was one of the earlier waters that he found.
Yeah, well, when we went there, it was like it was a big, massive adventure because I didn't even know if it was the right water.
Yeah.
I said in the book I did it a sneaky way where I found out where it was. I got Bob Henderson, who was a mate of Joe Taylor's, because Joe was giving it the big one. Oh, you'll never find out where it is, Warwick. And I had a fishing tackle shop at the time, so Bob Henderson was a big mate of Joe Taylor's. So Joe was giving it the big one that he's going to the lake again, and I'll never find out where it is. So I got Bob to check the mileage on his van. And then I says, when you back, Joe? So he said, I need some more gear. So I used to pay Bob to go down, and he was retired, so he liked seeing Joe. I says, because Bob wanted to know as well. He wouldn't tell Bob. So I says, make sure you get that frigging mileage off the old bastard's car when he comes back on his van. So he come back. He said, it's 64,000, blah, blah. So I did a calculation, and I got a big chart out, a map, and I did it, so many miles per inch and that. And I drew a big line. It went straight through the Champagne region, right through like the day. I thought, I reckon it's that. And it was right. Got it. But when we went, they showed it looking like mud flats.
Yeah.
But when we went, it was full because we went at a different time of the year. And I thought, shit, where's all the mud flats and all that? I thought, it must be this when the level's down. They've come at a different time of year. They probably went in the October. So we went in about April, May. Anyway, so they drop the levels in the winter and then raise it in the spring, So we thought, are we in the right spot? So we got the rods out, and Bob and George, the old para, they were in the 70s. We just took them for a bit of fun, And there was 6 of us went, and they says, we're getting our heads down. So I heard fish crashing at massive distance, and we were told that the Guard de Pêche were doing raids at night by some Dutch guys that were on there. They said, you can't fish at night, you get your gear confiscated. We've been fined and everything, because they were wondering if it was the correct water as well. So we worried about getting caught by the police. So I thought, bollocks to it. So I got up in the dark, and I heard the fish crashing closer and closer to us. So I got some big stringers on, 13-foot rods, banged them out as far as I could. And then I had 3 rods fishing away, and all the rest were sleeping. And then he just and straight on me, and then bang.
Wow.
So the first fish I had was 37-14. So I went and kicked Tim Bottomley's bed. She says, look at this. We're on the right place. It had to be because they had them big humpbacks on,
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And it was just amazing fishing, It was just ridiculous.
Is that the only place you wanted to fish in France once you stopped fishing there?
No, I wanted to fish casting and everything, which I did. Went fishing there in the winter with Tim and Crowe.
That's somewhere that I'd just love to go to.
Yeah.
I've got, I'd love to see it, and it's not necessarily about catching the biggest fish in Europe anymore, but it's just it's a history.
It's
always
it's amazing. There's nowhere like Cassian.
No,
it's I can see why Briggsy went back for 30 years.
Keeps going back there.
Yeah. It's the fish just feel a bit special out there. Different, little bit different.
That's
league.
a bit more prestige, isn't there? It's casein, isn't it?
Yeah. And especially in winter, when you catch them in winter. And what's surprising as well is in the winter, I was catching them from depths to 69 feet to 20 feet. But generally, in the summer, on the continent, the fish want to be in deeper water. Like in England, they want to be in the shallows because
it's deeper. The temperature drops.
Cooler.
Yeah.
It gets too hot for the fish. You got to remember that in Italy as well. A lot of people want to fish on top of the bars, and all you're getting is catfish and nuisances. But I was getting on Parco, for example, it's 30 foot deep. This area was fishing, and I was getting the leads back, and the leads were warm to the touch. So what it would have been on top of the bars there, it's just too hot for them. So they want to be in the cool, spring-fed water if you can find that. And the same was on Cassian.
Cassian's a good all-round water because you can be fishing right under the rod tip there, can't you? Or out a long way in a boat, and and it does fish in the winter as well, doesn't it?
I've been watching these films of that they've been making recently, and the fish are getting back up there again, aren't they? The size, and I think it's better to be mobile on there. I'll be honest. It's sitting and waiting is not always the way forward. I think it's best to try lots of different areas because the fish are often transient and passing through. They're not just sat there static, And I found that when we got busy, when I was fishing with Crowley in the winter, if we did quite a few moves, eventually get on them and then catch them quick. Because it wasn't always obvious where they were.
Can you keep them there, or they just those fish are just naturally?
Tim tried. He was baiting areas the size of a football pitch. That was his theory, but he didn't keep them there. He caught a few, and then they'd just still go.
But in reality, he could have just probably done that with less bait and.
Well, maybe so, but he seemed to have a bit of success on there, He
did, didn't he? I remember back,
he had a good run.
2000s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
was
fair
it
play
Moonscale?
to him,
And,
near the bridge on the plateau.
I love those pictures that he used to, because he used to write back in Cartward about those, didn't he? And just bivvied up there in the winter. It looked amazing.
Yeah, well, I was on most of them with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, there was one time when I went and it was snowing, and it was the first time I'd fished it, actually. And I went with Bob Davis, Crowley and Tim. And we tossed a coin. We got in the swim where Tim had the big one. That's that Moonscale one. Bob won the toss, so he went on the plateau under the bridge. It's 15 feet deep there. It's a hot spot. So I was fishing in 69 feet of water. So I used the cannonball, which is a giant method ball. Because when you're dropping in 70 feet of water, a handful of stuff will just triangulate out and spread. Any undertow just shifts it, so you're fishing a single hook bait. So if I put a 1 pound lead in it, 14 ounce lead, surrounded by about 2 pound of pellet, 10 tiger nuts in it, and a tiger nut hook bait, drop it, and when it hits the bottom, you get a plume of bubbles come to the surface. So it's gone down good, and that worked. But it was snowing. Bob's bivvy blew away. This is before we'd had a bite, and we'd been there 3 days, and my water bottles froze. And it was like Siberia, 3 foot of snow. As I say, big storm. Bob's bivvy was just gone. And this guy come round like Zen and Bodko, and me, Tim, and Crowley and Bob had a bet, 20 quid each on the biggest fish of the trip. And Tim will never have known about this. And what happened was, these guys said, I'd only just redone the rods, and my margin rod was in 20 odd feet right under my tips, like the line coming down on that like harbour wall, concrete wall. And these guys come and said, we're going to the supermarket, we're going to buy some hot chickens, the barbecue chickens, we're going to have a coffee and we're going to do this. And I was like fantasising over hot chicken sandwiches. I thought, shit. So we tossed a coin again, through went, and I lost the toss. So I ended up going, I'd only just put the rods. I says, Bob, I'm going to wind the rods in. Nah, get out, Warwick. He went, fuck all's happened for 3 days. He says, nothing's going to happen. You're going to be 20 minutes or so. I says, Bob, I never leave the rods ever. I says, it's a recipe for disaster. He went, we've been here 3 days, mate. It ain't going to suddenly happen. So I went with these guys, and they wanted to have a beer with me, asking me all questions. Oh, Frank, we've been dying to meet you. I says, guys, I just want to get the chickens, the water, and get back there. Come on, let's have a swift beer. And I went, no. In the end, we go in this bar, have a beer. And I'm like, guys, I've had enough now. We need to get back. I've got a bad feeling. Get back. And Bob's like, with his head in his hands. I'm like, my setup's ruined.
Oh, what?
He says, what's happened here, Bob? He said, 2 ounces under 50 on your margin, Rod. And I went, oh, shit. He says, I'm not having a fault with it. I'm just going to chuck it back. I says, no, I'll have a fault with it, Bob. And he'd had a 23 on his rod at the same time. So he just turfed his first ever casting fish back to deal with this, like,
oh, my God.
One of mine. Okay, a little bit under 50. Sounds nothing, but 20 years ago, it was something, you know, and in winter, in snow. So I took a picture of Bob. He says, do you have a picture? I says, mate, no. I says, I wasn't here. It's my own fault. I shouldn't have gone. So Bob was gutted. So we decided not to tell Crowie and Tim and all that, and that was the biggest fish of the trip.
Was it?
And Pays had a 46, and he was giving me shit. He said, you just haven't got the knack, have you, Warwick? You haven't got the knack. And he was going on. He says, well, Bob, well deserved on your big fish. Now, he's saying that now Bob's a big fish owner. And he's had the fish on my rod, and I'm thinking, shit, if only you knew. But it gave me some pleasure seeing Tim hand over the 20 quid to Bob, who slipped half it to me.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
He's going to know now, Frank.
He's going to know now,
well,
yeah. It's about time he heard.
Yeah, Yeah. But before we wrap this up, because we're talking about, like innovations and stuff, and you've just, you're quite excited about a rig that you've come up with.
Oh, well, I am excited in a way, but it's not the real deal yet, I don't think. But I thought I'd throw this open to...
We got a picture tape.
Yeah, let me have a look.
Thanks.
I throw it open to the viewers.
You've put it up on Instagram, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. Just to... It wasn't to get a reaction. It was to show people how my mind works, because...
Okay, so we're looking at... So what is that, like 4 inches long, roughly?
It's about 3 inches long, I guess.
Right.
What you've got is the ring swivel, because I was using it in... my initial thoughts were to use it in on a hinge rig or in a PVA bag. So... I tried to set it up so I could clip it onto stuff and use it on a variant of.
So we got a swivel ring there. We got some very stiff material.
It's like £30 boom type material.
Yeah, and you've used a crimp there, haven't you?
Yeah, I couldn't get that angle to stay without a crimp, so I used a crimp on the stiff material, and that's a pop up. So what happens is, a lot of people will look at that and go, "What the hell's that?" Well, what happens is. If a carp, what happens is it sits up when it's in the bag, and the pop-up springs it open slightly from the shot, and it's flexible that, and I've worked out that an inch is perfect. So the hook to the end of the bristle should be about an inch, and what it does is the fish are quite aggressive. Their eyes are on the side of the head. When they're sucking in a bait, they'll even rasp it a few times, suck it in. And what happens is the bristle with the shot on goes under the mouth.
Yeah, you can see that.
The hook goes in the lip on the inside of the ridge, and it kind of clamps.
That's really difficult to get rid of, isn't it?
If you try it on your own mouth, I tried it on my own lip, and it makes you panic, and you can't get it out. It just sticks like bang.
Mm.
So there's no matter how they suck and blow or shake the head, it's just there.
Mm.
So it's like almost like a peg.
Have you been using it very much?
No, it's still quite new.
Didn't someone catch a big fish on it recently?
Yeah, we went to Italy, to Parco, and I took Dale, a friend of mine, and he's a bit of a novice. I met him on a tutorial, and we just clicked, and I liked him, and he says, "Can I come to Italy with you?" So I said, "Yeah." And there's a funny story that, actually. The first time we took him, we do a draw. You got to hear this, I'll tell you quickly. We do a draw and put everyone's name in the hat. We all walk round before we start fishing, see who fancies where. You've all got your list. So whoever, Antonio's mum will pick the first name out, and it'll be like, Joe Bloggs. So he gets the first choice to swim. It's a walk-on. So Dale's like, oh, I'm not having much luck here, FW. Oh, shit. He says, I'm last. And then Antonio went to look and they forgot to put Dale's name in the hat.
No way.
So I'm like, I want a redraw.
Yeah.
And everyone else is dead pleased with the swim and where they've come out. I says, oh, it's going to be tricky, this. I says, Dale, go and peg 4. He says, oh, no, I look at peg 4. I says, mate, you've never fished the place before. I said, it's pretty uniform. It's nothing too different. Your food's part of the attraction. I said, just spom a lot and keep the bait going. So he did. I think he had 60-odd runs and 550s. And his biggest in the UK was 17 pounds. So he was like, he blew his brains out, you know. He's like, oh, my God. So this is a relative novice. And anyway, he came with me in the winter. And we sat there in this peg 20 and I said, I don't think it's going to be every throw of coconut this day. We have to be careful. Watch how much bait we put in and everything. And some of the others were gung-ho, you know, going mad with the bait, and it was really cold. So we took it easy, and Dale sort of just clocks that rig in my box, and I'd never even put it on. I'd never used it. I just had the theory in my mind, and I know why. There was a reason with it, with how the Inuit Indians used to catch big halibut, but chose the specific size, and once it went in, it wouldn't come out. So it was old technology, but altered to suit what I needed. Anyway, I says, mate, don't be daft. I said, it's something I've sort of been playing with, but I've not had the balls to put it on yet. I said, I'd rather go on somewhere where it's not as important and try it. He went, can I put it on? I said, yeah, go on then.
Perfect.
So we put it on. Yeah, I thought, this is ace. I've got my own tester.
Exactly.
It's like my own food taster, you know.
Yeah.
So he puts it on. He lost one in the margin rod, and then about an hour and a half later, it just steams off. I thought, shit, that's gone. He gets in £70 12 common.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So we went round to.
We have to get a picture of that, actually.
Yeah. So we went round to get. Yeah, I've got a picture of it. Yeah, we went round to see some of the boys to come and have a look at it. It was such a beautiful fish. And he left the rig in the boat ring. Frigging rat had got up and bit it off, and we had no more. No one had any more crimps, so we couldn't make another frigging rig. It just gnawed straight through it. I thought, you bastard, it had to do it, you know. And then the same rig, I was at the show at Zwolle, and Arnout from Carp World, he asked me to do a personal talk to about 10 people, prize winners from a competition, the magazine which I write for. So I said, yeah, of course I will. So I took the tackle boxes over. And they're all silent watching me show them the anchor rig and, you know, different things. They're all like, oh, yeah, I like it. And, you know, all Dutch. And there's a couple there, they're English. And they hadn't said much. And they said, oh, we've been watching you for years and all that, you know, like that. And one of them said, what's that? And it was the rig that had the rat had bit the thing off. I said, it's not complete. I told him the story. He says, will you make us one? They went around, got some crimps. So I did one. I said, that's about it. That's ready. Put a bait on it. Can I have that? I said, yeah. He's from Essex. He goes home with his missus, and he was with that bait company I used to be with. He pulls me, he goes, Frank, I tried it against the Ronnie rig, which I've been using a lot, and he said, I've only had a personal best on it, 38.12.
Right, yeah.
On your rig. So it's done 2 personal bests from the first 2 people that's ever used it. Now, I'm not saying it's a game changer, but I'm saying it's got potential. So that maybe we've got some viewers out there that want to do a little bit of experimentation and maybe enlarge on that or give us some feedback. Like I said, I'm not a selfish. I'm not a selfish person. It's there. If people don't like it, fine. I'm not bothered. I got the same with the Chod rig. I got the same with some of the other rigs. The shot on the hook rig. Loads of things. So it doesn't matter.
But there's another Chod rig out there, and another, you know, there is.
This is, you don't know until you try it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I've noticed that you do use split shots. You use little tags, don't you? On
yes,
same sort of purpose.
On the
you use a little. You've got the hooks, haven't you? So you've got your bait on, and then you've got a little tag with
shot on the hook.
Shot on the hook.
I use a piece of braid.
Yeah.
And then squeeze the shot on it, and then burn it, blob it with a lighter so it can't come off. You can't use it with barbless, that's the only thing with that. Unless you put one of those stops on that you use for a Ronnie rig and you glue it in place like a trumpet.
Right.
Then you can use it.
Are you using it as a counterbalance, or?
I'm using it to drop the rig into the bottom.
So the
of the
same
mouth.
sort of thing. You've kind of moved around and.
I like to drop the rig in the bottom of the mouth. That's the one thing. But it also allows you, if you've only got pop-ups, they look a bit blatant when you put a shot even close to the bottom. But if you do the shot on the hook, the pop-up becomes more like a wafter or a bottom bait. It keeps it closer to the bottom. And as an added bonus, you've got the shot that drops it onto the floor of the mouth.
Yeah,
so
it's doing two things.
So it's doing two jobs. Yeah. So I like things that are effective in a number of ways, and that really ticks the boxes. You know.
Well, we put it out there now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the response is like. Anything coming up in the fishing wise? I know you're fishing around a little bit at the moment.
I'm going back to Italy, and then I'm just glad my health's coming back to normal, you know. And then I've not flown on a plane yet, and I'm flying to Italy. And my wife's panicking, saying, "Oh, what if you have another one on the plane?" I says, "Well, I'm not really bothered about that at the moment. It's just like take 3 aspirin before I get on and thin the blood a bit more, and then see what happens." But
what have the doctors said then? Are they?
They've not even bothered with me.
Right.
Since he said to me, "Oh, we think COVID's caused it, and you know, just take these medications, cloppy dog roller and this other. I'm on 4 different things." He said, "Yeah." I says, "Well, what about the follow-up treatment and all that?" "We'll just keep taking the tablets." That's all he said.
That's the trouble nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keep taking the pills.
Yeah, but you know, I've got a trip to Belgium in October to the Surf Lake, which is one of my favourite lakes of all. A lot of very good friends over there, and
we've caught some very nice fish out there as well.
Oh yeah, and there's also Sibelco, Silvermere.
Yeah,
got friends that run that as well. That had the Benelux record in. I think Peter Cuppins had that about 4 or 5 times, and it's a massive lake, and it can get out all the way down the Kempish. You know, it's been recorded, I think, 20 odd kilometres away from the lake down the Kempish. It's several locks and passes through.
Right,
it's mad. You know, every year it turns up for spring and turns up back in the lake with its companions. You know, then they go on tour again.
Go on tour.
Yeah, it's mad.
Yeah,
it's like a gypsies, you know, that go on a certain route and do a patrol. It's just the same.
The carp equivalent.
Yeah, so they're amazing, aren't they? Carp, it's fabulous. That's why we're so mad.
They're intriguing. Yeah.
And so I'm going France to a new lake. There was a couple of girls and all that fished together, and they found this amazing lake that's 500 acres. It's got a hunting lodge on it, and it's in the foothills of the Alps. And it's only been fished a handful of times. They caught some very big fish on there, and you want to see it? It's just mega. So
sounds nice.
I've been offered a trip there to do a testing, and if I like it, I'll be doing group trips there. You know,
tutorials.
No, I'll give help to people that come on them if they need it.
But you're not being paid to do tutorials.
No,
right?
No. I find it a little bit irksome doing tutorials. I get asked all the time, but I find it dead difficult to take money off a beginner. I end up giving them more bait and bits and pieces than I've took in the money. Do you know what I mean? And I do. I struggle with that mentally to take money off a fellow angler. And I see some of the prices some of these blokes are charging, and I'm like that.
I know.
I couldn't do it. I'd feel like Dick Turpin.
But it's worth it. It's worth it to the person, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I do get it, but for me, it's a struggle. I mean, it's something that I might have to fall back on if ever I fell on awkward times. I must admit. So I can see why everyone does it. But, you know, I guess no one would want me to do much anyhow. You know.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. They'd learn something.
Yeah, maybe. So.
Well, it's been good, Frank. It's been great. We probably talked for another 7 hours, couldn't we, really?
We could easily, yeah. I mean, we're only just unpeeling a few layers.
I can figure you fishing Welly and Reedsmere and Reduta and all these lakes.
Mate,
and
there's so many that I've not even mentioned, you know, that in Serbia and Bosnia.
But that's the way these podcasts go. They just take their own path.
Yeah, but I'd love to come back one day if you ever need a little bit of a part 2.
Always welcome.
And it's been lovely. It's been great to feel like I've met some new friends as well, you know. So
that's nice.
Really nice. So thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Always welcome back on.
Yeah, lovely. I will do sometime.
Thanks.
Thanks, mate.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.